The night she saw him again. 6 months pregnant, hiding from the husband who'd burned the world to find her. She swore she'd never see his face again. 6 months ago, Lena Carter disappeared into the Manhattan crowd with nothing but a suitcase, a fake name, and a secret growing inside her. Twins. Twins she would die before letting him near. But tonight, in a private dining room 40 floors above the city, the door opens, and Victor Hale is standing there. The man she ran from. The man whose empire is built on blood. And the moment his eyes drop to her stomach, she knows. The running is over. Stay with me until the very end of this story. Hit that like button, and tell me in the comments what city you're watching from so I can see just how far Lena and Victor's story has traveled tonight. The rain had been falling on Manhattan for 3 days straight. The kind of cold November rain that didn't so much fall as seep, working its way under collars and into the seams of shoes, turning the city into something gray and unfinished. Lena Carter stood at the window of her fourth-floor walk-up on West 47th, one hand flat against the cool glass, the other resting low on the curve of her belly, and watched the taxis slide through the puddles below like yellow fish through muddy water. She was 22 weeks along. The doctor had told her that on Monday, in that flat professional voice doctors used when they were trying not to ask questions about the bruise on a woman's wrist or why she'd paid in cash. 22 weeks. 2 heartbeats. 2 separate sets of tiny fingers curled inside her, dreaming whatever unborn things dreamed. "Okay," she said out loud, to no one, to them. "Okay. We're okay." It had become a kind of prayer, that word. Okay. She said it when she woke up in the middle of the night from dreams where Victor's hand closed around her throat. She said it when she locked the 3 deadbolts on her apartment door. She said it when she looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman looking back. The short, dyed brown hair, the reading glasses she didn't need, the thrift store sweaters 2 sizes too big, designed to hide what could no longer be hidden. Okay. 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 Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She flinched. 6 months, and she still flinched. It was only Mira. "Still coming tonight?" "Said you would. Don't you dare bail on me, Carter." Lena exhaled slowly through her nose. Mira Okonkwo had been her roommate freshman year at NYU, a lifetime ago, before Victor, before everything, and Mira had taken her in without questions the night Lena had shown up at her Brooklyn apartment at 2 in the morning with a bloody lip and a duffel bag. Mira didn't know the whole truth. Mira knew enough. And tonight, Mira was closing on the biggest real estate deal of her career, a boutique hotel project with some hedge fund out of Connecticut. And she had begged Lena, literally begged, on her knees in Lena's kitchen, laughing and half drunk on celebratory wine, to come to the dinner. "I need one person at that table tonight who doesn't want something from me." "One? Please." Lena had said yes. It had been a weak moment. A Tuesday evening in October, the sun going down early, the apartment too quiet, her hand on her belly, and the terrible loneliness of being the only person in the world who knew what she was carrying pressing down on her chest like a stone. She typed back, "Still coming, be there at 7. Then she stood in front of her closet for a long time. Everything she owned now was designed to make her invisible. The black wool dress she finally pulled out was something she'd bought at a consignment store on 9th Avenue, loose through the middle, high at the neck. The kind of dress that said, "I am a 30-something accountant. Please do not look at me." She pulled it on over her head and studied herself in the mirror on the back of the bathroom door. The bump was obvious now. Any real dress would have shown it. This one just suggested something. A woman carrying a few extra pounds in a city that punished women for carrying a few extra pounds. She pulled a long charcoal cardigan over it and belted it loose, so the lines of her body disappeared entirely. "Sorry, guys," she said softly to her stomach. "Tonight we pretend you don't exist, just for a couple hours." She felt one of them kick. A small, indignant flutter, low and to the left. She put her hand there and laughed, surprising herself. A real laugh, short and wet. "Yeah," she whispered. "I know. You exist. You definitely exist." She left the apartment at 6:15, umbrella up, head down, walking east toward 7th Avenue. The wind off the Hudson cut through the wool of her coat. A man on the corner was screaming at a parked delivery truck in Spanish. A siren went by. Somewhere someone was playing a trumpet badly. It was, Lena thought, the most beautiful city in the world when you were not being hunted in it. She thought briefly that she was not being hunted anymore. She was wrong. The restaurant was on the 40th floor of a glass tower on 57th, one of those places that didn't have a sign out front, just a brass number on the door and a concierge in a gray suit who asked your name before he let you near the elevator. Lena gave Mira's name, and the man made a small mark on a tablet and gestured her through, and the elevator rose through the building in perfect, uncanny silence. And Lena watched her own reflection in the polished steel of the doors and thought, "You look fine. You look like a person. You are a person. You're going to dinner with your friend." The doors opened into a lobby that looked like someone's very rich grandfather's library. Dark wood, green leather, a fire in a real fireplace. A hostess in a black dress came forward with a smile so polished it looked mechanical. "Good evening. Do you have a reservation?" "I'm meeting the Okonkwo party." The hostess's smile adjusted by some tiny fraction. "Of course. Right this way, please." Lena followed her down a carpeted hallway past a series of closed doors. Private dining rooms, each one with a small brass plaque. The Astor, the Vanderbilt, the Morgan. The hostess stopped at a door at the end of the hall, the plaque reading the Roosevelt, and placed her hand on the brass handle. "They're already seated," she said. "Shall I take your coat?" "I'll keep it, thanks." Something in Lena's voice made the hostess look at her a second longer than she needed to, but she only nodded, pushed the door open, and stepped aside. The room was small and warm, lit by candles and a low chandelier, a round table set for 6. The windows behind it showed the whole dark sweep of Central Park, the lights of the west side scattered like dropped coins. The rain beaded on the glass. Mira was at the table in a red dress, her hair pulled up, a glass of wine already half empty in front of her, and she saw Lena and her whole face opened. "Oh, thank God," Mira said, and stood, and Lena laughed despite herself and came forward, and Mira hugged her hard and whispered in her ear, "You look like a librarian who just escaped a cult. I love you so much." "Shut up. I mean it. The glasses are a choice, Carter. Sit down." They sat. There were already 3 men at the table. Mira's 2 partners, Dev and Raj, both of whom Lena had met once before at a barbecue, and a man she didn't know, older, white-haired, a lawyer from the look of him. Mira poured her a glass of sparkling water without asking. They had an understanding. "So," Dev was saying, leaning forward, "the thing you have to understand about this building is that the bones are perfect. We're just—" The door opened. Lena didn't look up at first. She was studying the menu, which was printed on heavy cream paper with a black ribbon. She was thinking about whether she could stomach the fish. Pregnancy had ruined half the foods she used to love. The smell of garlic made her gag now, which was a tragedy, since garlic was in everything in Manhattan. "Ah," said the lawyer, standing. "Victor, good. We were just getting started." The menu slipped from Lena's fingers. It didn't fall. She caught it. Her hand moved before her brain did. Some ancient lizard part of her that had been wired by 6 months of running, by the 5 months before that of learning what it meant to be married to Victor Hale, by every slammed door and every broken plate and every soft-voiced apology that wasn't an apology at all. Her hand caught the menu and set it down on the tablecloth with the careful, noiseless precision of a woman handling an unexploded bomb. She did not look up. She could feel him in the room the way you feel a change in air pressure before a storm. A thickening. A sudden weight. There were footsteps. Victor had always walked quietly. He had always hated the sound of his own shoes. And then a chair being pulled out across the table from her, and the lawyer saying something about traffic from JFK, and Mira laughing politely at something, and Lena looking down at the white tablecloth and trying to remember how breath worked. "Look up," she thought. "Look up, you coward. If you don't look up, he'll see you looking down and he'll know." She looked up. Victor Hale was 38 years old. He was not quite 6 feet tall. In any photograph he had ever been in, he was the smallest man in the frame, smaller than his father had been, smaller than his bodyguards, smaller than the Russians he'd done business with in his 20s, and somehow, impossibly, the one your eye went to first. He had dark hair graying at the temples earlier than it should have. He had a nose that had been broken twice and set once. He had eyes the color of wet slate, set deep, and he had a mouth that did almost nothing when he spoke, so that when he smiled it was like a door opening onto a room you hadn't known was there. He was not smiling now. He was looking at her. For one long second, a second that seemed to stretch and bend, that seemed to contain her entire life, his face did nothing at all. No surprise, no anger, nothing. He was a man who had been trained, from the age of 11, not to let his face do anything his brain had not specifically ordered it to do. Lena had learned that about him in their second month of dating. She had thought it was impressive then. She had thought it meant he was steady. Then his eyes dropped. They dropped from her face to her throat to her shoulders to the loose belt of the charcoal cardigan, and they stopped. She had not thought, in all the ways she had imagined this moment, and she had imagined it every night for 6 months, that he would find out like this. That he would find her and her secret in the same instant. That she would be sitting 3 feet across a table from him with a glass of sparkling water in her hand and nowhere to run. "Lena," Mira said, touching her arm. "Lena, this is—" "Victor," Lena said. Her voice came out level. She was proud of it, in some detached way. She had not known she had that in her. "Hello, Victor." The table went quiet. Mira's hand froze on Lena's arm. Dev and Raj looked at each other. The lawyer, who had been in the middle of sitting down, paused with his hand on the back of his chair and looked between them with the dawning, careful expression of a man who has just realized he is standing in the middle of a minefield. Victor didn't answer her for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was exactly as she remembered it. Low, unhurried, the voice of a man who had never in his adult life needed to raise it to be listened to. "Hello, Lena." "You two know each other?" Mira said. She was smiling, the bright, brittle smile of a woman trying to save a deal. "Oh my God, what a small—" "We used to," Victor said, his eyes not leaving Lena's face. "We used to know each other." "We were married," Lena said. She didn't know why she said it. It came out before she could stop it, the words just there, on the table, between the bread plates and the candles. Mira's hand tightened on her arm. Dev made a small choking sound into his wine. Victor's mouth did the thing it did. Not a smile, just a slight private adjustment at one corner. And he said evenly, "We are married. The papers are in a drawer in my office. You never signed them." The lawyer sat down very slowly. "Oh," said Mira. "Oh. Oh no. Excuse me," Lena said. She stood up. Her legs did not entirely belong to her, but she stood up anyway. "Excuse me, I need to—" "Sit down, Lena." Victor's voice did not rise. It didn't need to. It landed on the room like a hand laid flat on the top of a piano, stopping all the strings at once. She did not sit down. "Mira," she said, not looking away from Victor, "I'm so sorry. I have to go. I'll call you tomorrow. I promise." "Lena," Mira started. "I am so sorry," Lena said again. And she meant it down to the bones of her feet. And she turned and walked out of the private dining room as fast as a pregnant woman in a charcoal cardigan could walk without running. She got 3 steps into the hall before she heard his chair scrape back. The elevator was too slow. She stabbed the button 3 times and it didn't come any faster. A couple was getting off the elevator next to it, an old woman in fur and a man with a cane, and Lena had to step around them and try not to look like she was about to scream, and behind her, somewhere down the hall, a door was opening. "Lena." She did not turn around. "Lena, stop." The elevator dinged. She stepped inside. She hit the button for the lobby and the button to close the doors, and she pressed herself against the back wall of the elevator, and for 1 second she thought she was going to make it. She was actually going to make it. The doors were sliding shut. A hand caught the edge of the door. The doors slid back open. Victor stepped into the elevator with her. He didn't touch her. He didn't have to. He filled the small space in a way she had forgotten a man could fill space. Not with his body, which was not that large, but with his attention. He stepped in, he pressed the emergency stop button with his thumb, and he stood at the opposite wall of the elevator and looked at her. The elevator alarm began to make a soft, polite beeping. "How far along?" he said. "Get out of the elevator, Victor." "How far along?" "Get out of the elevator." He didn't move. The beeping went on. Somewhere above them, in the ceiling, a security camera was recording all of this, and Lena knew, without being told, that the footage would never exist. Victor Hale's people were already on the phone to the building manager. By morning, this elevator ride would have happened in no one's memory but hers and his. 22 weeks, she said. She hadn't meant to tell him. It just came out. He had always had that effect on her. In the beginning, she had thought it was love. Later, she had understood it was something more like being small and cold and standing next to a fire. Something happened to his face. It was very small. If you had never been married to him, you would have missed it entirely. The corner of his mouth pulled down a fraction of an inch. His jaw, under the cleanly shaved skin, moved once. His eyes, the wet slate eyes, did something Lena had seen only twice before in 5 years. Once when his father had died. Once when he had come home to find her in the bath, with the razor still in her hand, and he had sat on the tile floor in his $3,000 suit and not said anything for a long time. 22 weeks, he repeated. Yes. 1 or 2. He closed his eyes. He didn't open them for what felt like a long time. When he did, he was Victor again, composed, contained, the small, quiet, dangerous man she had married in a courthouse in Greenwich on a Tuesday afternoon because he had said, "I don't want a wedding. I want you." "You were going to have my children," he said, "and not tell me." "I was going to have my children," she said. "Yes." "Lena, don't say my name like that." "Like what?" "Like you still get to." The alarm beeped. The elevator did not move. He was standing 4 feet away from her in a wool overcoat that had probably cost more than her month's rent, and she was pregnant with his twins, and she realized distantly that she was shaking, not a little, not politely, but a full-body shake that was making the charm on her necklace tap against her collarbone like a small, frantic bell. "Where have you been?" he said. "No." "Lena, no. You don't get that. You don't get 1 inch of that." "I have had," he said, and his voice was still quiet, still level, but there was something under it now, something coming up from under the ice like a shape under a frozen lake. "I have had 6 months, Lena. 6 months in which I did not know if you were alive." "You could have checked the morgues." "I did." She stopped. She had not expected that. He had not raised his voice, but the words had come out with a weight to them that suggested a great many nights she had not thought about, a great many hours on the phone, a great many doors he had opened into rooms full of dead women under sheets, hoping and not hoping. She put her hand against the wall of the elevator to steady herself. She was not going to cry. She had promised herself in the first week, in the motel in Albany, that she was going to stop crying about Victor Hale. She had used up her lifetime's allowance of tears on him already. There were none left. There were not supposed to be any left. "I'm sorry," she said. "About the morgues." He looked at her. "But I'm not coming back," she said. "I'm not. Whatever you're going to say, whatever you're going to do, whatever you're going to offer. I'm not coming back, Victor. I can't. You know I can't." "You're carrying my children." "Yes." "And you were not going to tell me." "No." "Were you ever?" "No." He nodded, once, as if she had confirmed a suspicion, as if some piece had clicked into place that he had been turning in his hands for months. "All right," he said. She didn't trust that. She knew what all right meant, in his mouth. All right was the word he had said the night before a man named Pavel Sorokin had walked out of a restaurant in Brighton Beach and not walked in anywhere else, ever again. All right was a door closing somewhere she couldn't see. "Victor? Don't. Don't what, Lena? Don't do whatever you're about to do." He almost smiled then, the small not smile, the private one. "I'm going to take you home," he said. "I'm going to take you home, and I'm going to sit in a chair across the room from you, and I'm not going to touch you, and you're going to eat something because you are too thin, and you are going to tell me where you have been living because I am going to put people on the building. That's what I'm going to do tonight. Tomorrow, we can talk about the rest." "I'm not going home with you." "All right. Then tell me where you live, and I'll take you there." "No. Lena. No." He took a breath. It was the first thing he had done in the whole elevator that looked like an effort. "There are," he said slowly, "4 people in this city who want me dead. Possibly 5. One of them, the 5th, I am not sure about. If any of them had found out in the last 6 months that Lena Carter was pregnant and living alone in Manhattan, I would not be standing in an elevator with you now. I would be standing in a morgue with you. Do you understand what I'm telling you?" "Yes." Then tell me where you live. She did not tell him. She looked at him, at the small contained man in the overcoat with his wet slate eyes, and she thought about 6 months of walking home at night with her keys laced through her fingers, about 3 deadbolts, about the way her own heart beat too fast every time a man in a dark coat passed her on the street. She thought about the 2 small flutters inside her, the indignant kicks, the heartbeats on the ultrasound screen like 2 tiny drums going at slightly different speeds. She thought, he is the reason. He is the whole reason. She thought, and he is also the only person in this city who can actually keep them safe. She hated herself for the second thought. She hated that it was true. West 47th, she said. I'm not telling you the number. That'll do. He reached past her, not touching her, his arm not even brushing her coat, and pressed the emergency stop again. The beeping cut off. The elevator shuddered and began smoothly to descend. They rode the 40 floors in silence. There was a car waiting at the curb. Of course there was. There was always a car waiting at the curb. Lena had forgotten, in 6 months of subways and her own 2 feet, what it was to live in a world where cars waited. A black SUV, tinted windows, a driver she didn't know, a man in the passenger seat she didn't know either, younger than Victor's usual people, with a scar through one eyebrow, who got out when he saw Victor coming and opened the back door without a word. Dmitri, Victor said. Boss? This is Mrs. Hale. The young man's eyes flicked to Lena, registered her, registered the cardigan and the coat and the thing the cardigan was hiding, and did not react. He nodded once. Ma'am. I'm not Mrs. Hale, Lena said. Dmitri looked at Victor. Victor did not look away from Lena. Get in the car, please, Victor said. She got in the car. It was warm inside. The leather was cream-colored. There was a bottle of water in the cup holder and a folded cashmere blanket on the seat and a faint, expensive smell. Victor's cologne, something with cedar in it, something she had not smelled in 6 months and had not realized she missed until it was in her nose again, and she hated that her body responded to it, hated that some animal part of her relaxed at the scent of him, the way a dog relaxes at the sound of its owner's car in the driveway. Victor got in beside her. Not close. He took the far seat against the opposite door, and he put his hand flat on his own knee and left it there, as if to show her he was not going to reach for her. Dmitri got in the front. The driver pulled away from the curb without being told where to go. They drove 2 blocks in silence. Then Victor said, without turning his head, "The bruise on your wrist." Lena looked down. The sleeve of the cardigan had ridden up when she'd gotten in the car. The bruise was yellow now, almost gone, a small oval just below the heel of her hand. She had gotten it 4 days ago, slamming a cab door too fast because she'd been sure that the man in the gray coat across the street had been watching her. I hit it on a door, she said. I did. All right. Victor. I hit it on a door. I believe you, he said. I'm asking because if someone else did it, that someone is going to have a very bad night, and I'd like to know before or after dinner. She almost laughed. She didn't. She pulled the sleeve of the cardigan down over the bruise, and she looked out the window at the blurred wet lights of 8th Avenue going by, and she said very quietly, "You can't talk like that anymore. Not around them." She put her hand on her stomach. "Not around me." He was silent for a long moment. "I know," he said. She turned and looked at him. It was the first time all night that she had really looked at him. In the elevator, she had been too busy surviving him to see him. Now, in the warm dark of the car, with the streetlight sliding across his face, she saw what 6 months had done. He was thinner. It was a small thing. A 1/4 inch of bone at the jaw. A shadow under the cheekbone that hadn't been there. There was a cut at his hairline, nearly healed, a thin pink line disappearing into his hair. His hands, he had always had beautiful hands, long-fingered and careful, a pianist's hands, except his father had beaten him for playing piano when he was 9, were chapped across the knuckles, the skin split in one place over his right thumb and scabbed over. He looked, she thought, like a man who had been looking for someone for 6 months. "Don't," he said, without turning his head. "Don't what?" "Don't look at me like that." "Like what?" "Like you feel sorry for me." "I don't want it." "I don't feel sorry for you, Victor." "Good. I feel sorry for me." He turned his head then. Just his head, not his body. and he looked at her with those slate eyes, and his mouth did the not smile again. The small, private one that she had once, 1,000 years ago, in a courthouse in Greenwich, seen at the moment he had slid a thin gold ring onto her finger and said, "I'll try," in a voice so low only she had heard it. "I'll try, Lena. I know what I am. I'll try." "Fair enough," he said. The SUV turned onto 47th. Lena gave the driver the number of her building with her eyes closed. She didn't want to watch him pull up. She didn't want to watch her small, safe, stupid life come into view through a tinted window from the back of Victor Hale's car. The driver stopped. "Stay in the car," Victor said to Dmitri, and to the driver. "Keep it running." "Yes, sir." "You don't have to come up," Lena said. "I know." "Then don't." "I'm going to walk you to your door." "Victor, to the door, Lena. Not inside. You don't have to invite me in. I want to see the lock." She sat for a moment. Then she sighed, a long, exhausted sigh that seemed to come up from somewhere near her feet, and she opened the car door and got out. The rain had stopped. The air smelled like wet concrete and garbage, and faintly, from the Thai place on the corner, coconut and lime. Her building was a narrow brownstone with a crooked stoop and a broken intercom and a front door that stuck in wet weather. She had loved it on sight. She had paid 3 months' rent in cash up front to a landlord who had not asked for her real name. Victor followed her up the stoop. He did not offer her his hand. He watched her feet on each step as if he expected her to fall and was prepared to catch her without touching her. Some careful calibration of presence and absence she did not want to think too hard about. At the top of the stoop, she turned. The street was quiet. The SUV was idling at the curb. Dmitri was watching from the passenger window, scanning the block in slow, methodical sweeps, his face lit blue by his phone. "This is the door," Lena said. "Good night, Victor." He looked at the door. He looked at the lock. A cheap deadbolt, the kind any competent person could pick in 40 seconds. He looked at the mail slot, which didn't close all the way. He looked at the fire escape, which came down on the wrong side of the alley, accessible from a dumpster a child could climb. He didn't say anything. He reached, slowly, into the inside pocket of his coat, and he took out a small black phone. Not his own, a second one, the kind of phone that had been bought in a bodega with cash, and he held it out to her. "Lena." "I don't want it." "Take it." "No. My number is the only number in it. If anything happens, anything, you press the button. You don't have to say anything. I'll know where you are." "Victor, take the phone, Lena, please." He did not say please often. She had heard him say it over 5 years of marriage, maybe a dozen times. It was not a word that came easily to him. The last time he had said it had been the night she had left, sitting on the edge of their bed in the house in Greenwich, with his hands hanging between his knees, saying, "Please don't go, please. Lena, please." She had gone anyway. She took the phone. He nodded once. He stepped back down to the sidewalk. He stood on the wet concrete under the orange streetlight, and he looked up at her on the stoop. And for a moment, just a moment, he looked like a man she had known a long time ago, a man she had fallen in love with in a bar in the East Village before she had understood what he was, a man who had written her a letter in his own small, careful handwriting and slid it under her door at 4 in because he had not trusted himself to say the words out loud. "Lena." "Victor." 22 weeks. "Yes." Are they... He could not finish the sentence. His mouth moved and no sound came out. She watched him, on the sidewalk in the orange light, this small, dangerous man who had buried people in the New Jersey Pine Barrens. This man she had run from and been running from and would probably be running from for the rest of her life, trying to ask her if his children were healthy, and she could not, no matter how hard she tried, no matter what she told herself, she could not make her mouth refuse him that. "They're healthy," she said. The doctor says they're perfect, both of them. A boy and a girl." He closed his eyes. He stood there, on the wet sidewalk, with his eyes closed, and he did not move for a count of 5. Then he opened them. He nodded once. He got in the SUV, the door closed. The car pulled away from the curb and turned at the corner and was gone. Lena stood on the stoop for a long time after it was gone. The phone was heavy in her pocket, heavier than it should have been. Her keys were in her other hand. Her hand was shaking too hard to get the key in the lock, and she stood there, on the broken stoop of her narrow brownstone on West 47th in the November cold, and she thought about the house in Greenwich and the morning sun through the kitchen window, and the way Victor had made coffee, the only domestic thing he had ever done, every morning without fail. A small ritual he would not let anyone else perform. And the way he had set a cup of it on her nightstand the morning after the first time he had put a hand on her throat, and the way he had sat on the edge of the bed, fully dressed, and said, I know what I did. I will not do it again. I swear to you on my mother's grave, Lena, I will not do it again. He had not done it again. Not exactly. Not that, specifically. But the world he lived in had. And the world he lived in was going to keep doing it, over and over, in different shapes, for the rest of their lives. She got the key in the lock on the third try. She climbed the 4 flights to her apartment, one hand on the banister, one on her belly. She locked the 3 deadbolts behind her. She went to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of water from the filter, and she stood at the sink and drank it in one long swallow, and then she set the glass down on the counter, and she went to the window. The street was empty. The SUV was gone. The rain had started again, a fine silver mist under the streetlights. Across the street, on the corner by the Thai place, a black sedan was idling at the curb. Its headlights were off. A single orange pinprick glowed in the driver's side window, rose, faded, rose again. Someone was smoking. Lena watched it for a long time. Her hand, without her telling it to, went into the pocket of her cardigan and closed around the small black phone Victor had given her. She didn't press the button. She just held it. One of the babies kicked, hard, low on her left side. I know, she whispered. I know, sweetheart. I know. Down on the corner, the orange pinprick glowed again and faded and glowed and did not move. She stood at the window until the streetlights began to flicker off one by one at a little past 5 in the morning, and the black sedan was still there when the sun came up. She didn't sleep. She didn't pretend to try. She sat on the floor of her apartment with her back against the radiator and her knees drawn up as close to her chest as 22 weeks of pregnancy would allow, which was not very close. And she watched the window go from black to gray to a thin, sick yellow as the sun came up over the East River. The black sedan on the corner left at 5:40. She watched it go. A different car. A dark green one this time. A small sedan with mud on the plates slid into the same spot at 5:43, as if they had rehearsed it, as if there were a schedule pinned to a wall somewhere with her address at the top of it. She understood then, in a way she had not understood even in the elevator, that her life on West 47th was over. The understanding did not come with panic. It came with something flatter and more tired. A kind of grief, maybe. She had loved this apartment. She had loved the crooked stoop and the sticking door and the way the radiator clanked at 4 in the morning like an old man clearing his throat. She had loved being nobody in it. She had loved waking up and being Elena Marsh, a freelance copy editor from Buffalo, with a quiet pregnancy and no husband and no past. And she had loved it so hard that she had almost, for whole weeks at a time, believed it. She stayed on the floor until her back started to seize, and then she got up, slowly, one hand on the radiator, and she went to the kitchen. The small black phone was on the counter where she'd left it at 3 in the morning. She hadn't pressed the button. She hadn't called. She had just put it down next to the fruit bowl and walked away from it, the way you walk away from a loaded gun on a table. Now, in the yellow light, it looked smaller than it had last night. It looked like what it was. A piece of plastic with one number in it. She made coffee. Decaf, because the book said decaf. She drank half a cup standing at the counter and threw the rest in the sink. Her stomach wasn't having it. Her real phone buzzed on the windowsill. Mira. Lena. Lena. Are you alive? Call me. Please call me. I am losing my actual mind. Then 2 minutes later. I don't know what happened last night. I don't know who that man is to you. I don't care. I just need to know you are alive, please. Then 3 minutes after that, I'm coming over. I'm getting in a cab right now. If you don't want me to come over, you have to tell me. Lena closed her eyes. She typed back, I'm alive. Don't come over. Please, give me an hour. I'll meet you at the place on 9th. Mira wrote back in 6 seconds. 1 hour. If you're not there, I'm calling the police. Don't call the police, then be there. She put the phone down. She went into the bathroom. She looked at herself in the mirror over the sink, at the dyed brown hair and the pale face, and the eyes that looked like she'd been crying even though she hadn't, not really, not all the way, and she said out loud to the woman in the mirror, "Okay, okay, think." Thinking was harder than it used to be. Her brain had gone soft in places since the second trimester, dreamy in the middle of sentences, leaving words on the tip of her tongue. But she pushed through it now. She made herself count. Option 1. She could stay. She could stay in the apartment and let Victor put men on the building and accept, for however long it took, that she was a woman being watched over by her estranged husband's soldiers. She could keep working. She could keep seeing Dr. Liu at the clinic on 58th. She could have the babies in Manhattan. Option 2. She could run again. Tonight, she had $8,000 in cash taped to the back of the refrigerator and a bus ticket she had never used folded inside a copy of Jane Eyre on her shelf. She could be in Pittsburgh by morning. She could be anywhere. Option 3. She didn't let herself look at option 3 for very long. Option 3 was the one where she got in a car with Victor and let him take her home to the house in Greenwich. And she did not trust the part of herself that was even considering option 3. She washed her face. She put on jeans that still fit, barely, and a soft gray sweater that did not. She looked at herself in the mirror again from the side, and she saw what Victor had seen last night. The curve, unmistakable now in anything that wasn't a cardigan. She put on the cardigan anyway. Habit was a kind of armor. She took the small black phone off the counter. She almost left it. She stood at the door with her hand on the first deadbolt and looked back at it, on the counter by the fruit bowl, and she thought, leave it there. Go to Mira, then go to the bank, then go to Port Authority, and leave that little piece of him on the counter. She went back and took the phone. She hated herself for it the whole way down the stairs. The green sedan was still on the corner when she came out of the building. She didn't look directly at it. She walked west toward 9th, her head down, the collar of her coat up, and she listened for the sound of a car door and did not hear one. Whoever was in there was not following her on foot. They were a tether, not a leash. That was a Victor detail. He had always understood the difference. The diner on 9th was the kind of place that had not updated its menu since 1994 and did not intend to start. Formica tables. Vinyl booths the color of old mustard. A waitress named Dolores, who called everyone honey with the exact same amount of warmth, whether she was handing you coffee or telling you to get out. Mira was in the back booth already, both hands wrapped around a mug, her hair up in a messy bun, and her face clean of makeup and her eyes ringed red. She stood up when she saw Lena. She didn't say anything. She just opened her arms, and Lena walked into them, and Mira held on for a long time. "You scared the hell out of me," Mira said finally, into Lena's shoulder. "I know. I almost called 911. I know. Don't ever do that to me again." "I'll try." Mira pulled back. She held Lena at arm's length and looked at her, top to bottom, and her eyes lingered at Lena's middle for a fraction of a second and then came back to her face, and Mira did not say anything about it, and Lena loved her, in that moment, more than she had loved almost anyone. "Sit down," Mira said. Dolores, honey, we need another coffee. And you want toast? Eat some toast, Carter. You look like a ghost." "I ate." "Eat toast." "Fine, toast." They ordered. Dolores clicked away in her white shoes. Mira took Lena's hands across the table and held them the way you hold a bird that isn't sure yet whether to fly. "Okay," Mira said. "Tell me what you can tell me. I'm not going to ask for anything you don't want to give me, I promise. Just something. Who he is. What he is. How scared I should be right now." Lena looked down at their hands. She had not told Mira the whole truth in 6 months. She had not told anyone the whole truth in 6 months. Keeping it in had become a kind of muscle, a thing she did in her sleep now. She did not know, sitting across from her oldest friend in a vinyl booth in a diner on 9th Avenue, whether she could still remember how to open her mouth and let the truth out. She tried. "His name is Victor Hale," she said. Slowly. The name felt strange in her mouth in the daylight. "We got married 5 years ago. I met him in a bar in the East Village when I was 24. He's in business. Legitimate business, on paper, real estate, some shipping, some imports. But the money didn't come from that. The money came from his father, and his father was..." She stopped. Mira waited. His father ran things, Lena said, in parts of Brooklyn, in parts of Queens, things that weren't legal. Victor took over when his father died. He's been trying to make it clean ever since, I think. He's told me he's been trying, but clean is a long road, Mira. Clean is a thing you promise people. It's not a thing you do overnight. Okay, Mira said. Her face had gone very still. Okay, I hear you. I left because... Lena stopped again. Started over. He never hit me. I want to say that. I know how this story sounds. I know what you're picturing. He never hit me. Once his hand was on my throat, and he let go before he did anything with it, and he slept in the guest room for a week afterward, and he cried. Actually cried. I had never seen him cry before. Lena, I'm telling you it's complicated. I know it's complicated. I don't need you to make him sound better than he is. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not trying to make him sound better. I'm trying to tell you the truth. The truth is he never hit me. The truth is the thing that made me run wasn't him. Not exactly. It was the morning I came downstairs and there was a man at our kitchen table with a bullet in him, bleeding onto the tile, and Victor was making him tea like it was the most normal thing in the world. That was the morning I knew. If I stayed, my children... Her voice cracked, and she pushed through it. My children were going to grow up in a house where men sometimes bleed onto the kitchen tile, and I couldn't, Mira. I couldn't do that. Mira was crying a little, quiet tears that were just sitting on her lower lashes, not falling. She didn't let go of Lena's hands. Okay, she said. Okay. Is he going to hurt you? No? Are you sure? I'm sure. Lena, I'm sure. Whatever he is, he's not that. He's never been that. That's part of what makes it so hard. Dolores brought the toast. Neither of them touched it. The coffee went cold. What are you going to do? Mira asked. I don't know. Come stay with me. I can't. Yes, you can. I have the second bedroom. You'd be doing me a favor. I hate that apartment when I'm alone in it. I swear to God, it's too big. I've been telling you this for months. Mira. What? If I come stay with you, the kind of people who want him dead will know where you live by Thursday. Mira's mouth closed. Oh, she said after a moment. Okay. That's... Okay, I hadn't... Okay. Yeah. That's a new piece of information. Yeah. Are there people who want him dead? Yes. How many? He said 4, possibly 5. Mira laughed, a small, hysterical laugh that had nothing to do with humor. She let go of Lena's hands and sat back in the booth and put both of hers over her face. Carter, she said through her fingers. Carter? Oh my God, Carter! I know. What are you going to do? I don't know. I think I'm going to go see him. Mira lowered her hands. You're going to go see him. Not stay with him. Not that. I just think I need to know what he's going to do. I need to be in a room with him when it's not an elevator. I need to look at him and see what's still there and what isn't. I owe myself that before I decide. Do you owe yourself that? Or does he owe it to you and you're letting him off easy by calling it something else? Lena looked at her. That was sharp, she said. I love you. I'm allowed to be sharp. I know. Take me with you. No. Take Dev with you. Take anyone. Don't go alone. Mira, he's not going to do anything to me. That's not what this is. Then tell me you'll call me, before and after. If you go more than 2 hours without texting me, I'm going to the police, and I don't care whose tile gets bled on. Lena smiled. It was a small, broken smile, but it was real. Deal, she said. She walked Mira out to a cab. She stood on the curb and watched the yellow car pull away, and she waited until it turned on 42nd and was gone. And then she stood there a moment longer, in the gray light, with her hand on her belly, and she let herself feel how tired she was. It was the kind of tired that had bones in it, the kind that had been building for years. She took the small black phone out of her pocket. She looked at it for a long time. She pressed the button. It didn't ring. It didn't do anything. She held it up to her ear and she didn't hear anything. Victor, she said, in case. Nothing. She lowered the phone. She looked at it again. There was a single letter on the screen now, small, in the corner. V. She put the phone back in her pocket. She was still standing on the curb 3 minutes later when the green sedan pulled up in front of her. The window rolled down. The man behind the wheel was older than Dmitri, maybe 50, with a gray buzz cut and a face that looked like it had been carved out of a block of something harder than skin. He didn't smile. He didn't introduce himself. Mrs. Hale. I'm not, she started, and then stopped. She was too tired. Where is he? He's at the house in Greenwich. He thought you might prefer somewhere less public than the Manhattan place. I'm to take you there if you want to go. I'm also to take you back to your building if you don't, or anywhere else. Anywhere else. Anywhere else. She stood there a moment. Greenwich, she said. He nodded once. He got out, walked around the car, and opened the back door for her. He did not touch her. He did not offer his hand. She got in and he closed the door behind her and got back in the driver's seat, and the sedan pulled smoothly away from the curb. She texted Mira as they turned onto the West Side Highway. Going to see him. At the Greenwich house. We'll text you when I'm there. We'll text you when I leave. I love you. Mira wrote back immediately. I love you too. I hate this. Text me. Lena put the phone in her lap and looked out the window. The city fell behind her in slow stages. The river went gray, then brown, then gray again. They crossed the bridge into the Bronx, then out of it. The signs for Greenwich came up faster than she remembered. She had driven this road 1,000 times, toward and away, in Victor's cars and taxis, and once, in the last year, in a rented Honda with a suitcase in the trunk and no plan for where she was going to sleep. The trees were bare now, the road was wet. There was a thin line of salt on the edges of the asphalt from the last storm. The driver did not talk to her. She was grateful for that. She watched the exits go by, and she put her hands flat on her belly and she said, very quietly under her breath, words she had been saying to her children for weeks now, little nothings, little reassurances. Okay. Okay. We're okay. Mommy's okay. We're just going to see someone. We're just going to look at him. We're not staying. We're just looking. One of them kicked. The small one. The girl. She had decided, without evidence, that the smaller one was the girl. A little flutter, low, to the left. I hear you, Lena whispered. The house came up at the end of a long private drive lined with old oaks. It was a stone house, 2 stories, with a slate roof and black shutters and a gravel courtyard in front of it where Victor's grandfather had once, according to family lore, parked a Packard. Lena had loved this house once. She had loved the kitchen with its blue tile and the window seat in the library and the way the light fell in the upstairs hall in the late afternoon. She had planted tulip bulbs in the fall of her 2nd year of marriage. She had cried the morning she left because she knew she was never going to see the tulips come up. They had come up. She could see the beds along the front of the house, emptied now for winter, black earth freshly turned, which meant someone was still keeping the garden. Someone was still doing all the small things, the pointless domestic things, in a house where the woman of the house had been gone for half a year. The car stopped. The driver got out. He opened her door. Ma'am. Thank you. She stood in the courtyard. The front door of the house opened. Victor stepped out. He was in dark jeans and a charcoal sweater, no coat, and he looked, in the weak gray light, even more tired than he had looked last night. He did not come down the steps. He stopped at the top and waited for her to come to him, and she understood with a small ache she didn't want to examine that he was trying to let her decide every small thing, whether to get out of the car, whether to walk toward him, whether to come up the steps. He was parceling out the choices one by one, as if he had been coached. She wondered briefly who had coached him. She came up the steps. Lena. Victor. Thank you for coming. Don't thank me. I don't know why I came. He nodded. He stepped aside from the door. Would you come in, please? It's cold. She went in. The hallway smelled the way it had always smelled. Old wood and beeswax polish, and faintly, the particular smell of the fire the housekeeper used to build in the library on winter mornings. Someone had built a fire today. She could smell it. Is anyone here? She asked. No, Mrs. Bell is in the village. The men are in the gatehouse. I wanted it just us. Okay. I made soup, he said. She looked at him. I'm sorry, she said. You what? Soup. There's soup. In the kitchen. I didn't know what you could eat. I looked some things up. I made a chicken soup with no garlic in it because you used to say the smell of garlic was too strong. I thought maybe pregnant it would be. Anyway, there's soup. She looked at him for a long moment. He looked back at her. His face was doing the careful, unreadable thing it always did, but his hands were not. His hands were shoved in the pockets of his jeans, and she could see through the fabric that they were fisted. You looked up pregnancy food, she said. Yes. On the internet? Yes. You. Lena. I'm trying to picture it. Give me a minute. Will you come and eat some soup? Yes, she said. All right. Yes. She followed him down the hall to the kitchen. The kitchen was exactly as she remembered it. Blue tile, a copper pot on the stove, a loaf of bread on the cutting board, clearly cut by someone who did not cut bread often. He had tried. He had actually tried. There was a small bowl of cut strawberries on the counter too, and a glass pitcher of water with lemon slices in it, and Lena looked at the counter and felt, without warning, the tears rise up hot behind her eyes, and she turned her face away so he would not see. He saw. He didn't say anything. He turned his back slowly and went to the stove and picked up a ladle. Sit down, he said over his shoulder. Please. She sat down at the kitchen table. It was the same table. She had eaten 1,000 breakfasts at this table. She had eaten the last meal of her marriage at this table, a piece of cold pizza at 2 a.m, while Victor sat across from her in his shirt sleeves and did not speak. He set a bowl of soup in front of her. He set a spoon. He set a small plate with 2 pieces of the poorly cut bread. He sat down across from her. The same seat, 2 a.m, cold pizza. And he folded his hands on the table in front of him. I'm not going to eat while you eat, he said. I had lunch. I want to watch you eat something. That's a weird sentence, Victor. I know. She picked up the spoon. Her hand was shaking a little. She dipped the spoon into the soup, and she brought it to her mouth, and the smell alone, the smell of chicken and dill and whatever else he had put in, made her stomach unclench for the first time all day. She ate a spoonful, then another, then 3 more in a row. Slow down, he said softly. Don't tell me how to eat. Okay. She ate another spoonful. She ate a piece of the bread. The bread was stale. She ate it anyway. This is good, she said. The soup. I followed a recipe. I'm stunned. Lena, I'm sorry. I'm trying to make jokes. I don't know how to be in this room with you right now. I know. She put the spoon down. She looked across the table at him. He was watching her eat with a concentration that was frankly unnerving, as if he were watching a surgery. His eyes kept going to her stomach, under the table, and then back up to her face, and then back down, and he did not seem to know he was doing it. Ask me what you want to ask me, she said. Just ask. I can't sit here and eat soup while you calculate. He was quiet a moment. Where were you? He said. The first month. A motel in Albany, then a bus to Pittsburgh, then a different bus back east. I rented a room in Newark for 6 weeks, then the apartment in Manhattan. All cash. All cash. You had how much? 11,000 when I left. 8 left now. Jesus, Lena. I was careful. You were pregnant and alone in Newark for 6 weeks with $11,000. I didn't know I was pregnant in Newark. I found out in August. I was in Manhattan by then. He closed his eyes. He put his hand over his mouth. He sat like that for a long moment, his elbow on the table, his hand over his mouth. And then he lowered his hand and he said very quietly, Who did you see? For the pregnancy. A real doctor. A real doctor. A clinic on 58th. Her name's Dr. Lou. She's good. She's careful. She took cash. Give me her name again. Victor, no. You're not going to. I'm not going to anything. I'm going to pay her, quietly. The difference between what you've been paying and what the best obstetrician in Manhattan gets paid. And I am going to do it in a way she will never know it came from anyone but a grateful anonymous patient. And you are going to keep seeing her because you like her, and I am not going to interfere. That's what I'm going to do. Lena, look at me. She looked at him. I'm not going to make you do anything, he said. You took me here. I asked you to come here, and you said yes. I would have taken you to a diner. I would have taken you to a park. I wanted somewhere warm, that's all. You can leave this house anytime you want. Carl is at the end of the drive. He will drive you anywhere in the tri-state. He will drive you to the airport. He will put you on a plane. If you tell me right now that you want to leave, you leave, and I will not come to the apartment on 47th, and I will pull the men off your building, and you will never see me again. I will write it down if you want. I will sign it. Say the word. She sat very still. You're lying, she said after a moment. About what? About the last part. You wouldn't pull the men off. You'd never see me again, maybe, but you'd never stop watching. You can't. It's not in you. He was quiet. That's fair, he said. Yeah, I thought so. I would keep men on the building. You're right, because it's not just you anymore, you understand. I understand. But I would not come to the door. I would not call. I would not write. You would live your life, and they... His eyes flickered briefly to her belly, and then back up. They would live their lives, and that would be the end of it. I swear to you, Lena, if that's what you want, that's what I'll do. She looked at him. Is that what I want? She said. I don't know. You tell me. I don't know either. All right. Victor. Last night, you said 4 people want you dead, possibly 5. Yes. Tell me who. He shook his head. Lena. Tell me who. If I'm sitting in this kitchen, if I'm eating this soup, if I'm thinking about anything, I need to know who. I need real information, not the hand-patting version, not the don't worry your pretty head version. If I'm in, even a little, I'm in as a person, not as a wife. Any of it, tell me. He sat back in his chair. He looked at the table. He looked at his hands. He looked at her. He seemed for a long moment to be weighing something. And Lena realized she was watching him decide whether to treat her like an adult, and she hated that she had to wait for him to decide. And she also understood, in some exhausted grown-up way, that him hesitating meant he was actually considering it, which was more than he would have done a year ago. All right, he said. He told her. He told her about the Mazzetti brothers, who had been trying to move into the shipping contracts on the waterfront since their father had died, and whose younger brother Victor had put in the hospital 18 months ago for reasons Victor did not dress up. He told her about a man named Anton Reyes, who had been Victor's father's friend and who had decided, when Victor's father had died, that what had been promised to him had not been delivered. He told her about a woman Lena had not known, had not expected a woman, named Carla Voss, a lawyer in Miami who had laundered money for Victor's father for 20 years and who had, 6 months ago, not long after Lena had left, made a move Victor had not seen coming and taken a sum of money Victor had eventually clawed back and disappeared. Carla Voss was the 4th person. Carla Voss was, Victor said, the most dangerous of the 4, because Carla Voss was smart, and Carla Voss was patient, and Carla Voss was now the only one of the 4 who had not made a visible move in 6 months. And the 5th, Lena said. He looked at her. I don't know, he said. That's why I said possibly. I think there's someone else. I think someone has been moving against me quietly for about 4 months, and I don't know who they are yet. I have an idea. I have 2 ideas. I don't have a name. 4 months. Yes. Since August. Yes. Since around the time I found out I was pregnant. Yes. Victor. I know. Victor, do you think... I think I want you in this house, or in a house I control, he said, very quietly. Until I know the 5th name, that's what I think. And I think I don't have the right to ask you for that. And I think I'm asking anyway. That's where I am, Lena. That's my hand on the table. She sat for a long time. The soup was going cold in front of her. A log shifted in the fireplace in the next room, a soft collapsing sound. Somewhere, in the trees past the window, a crow was calling once, twice, 3 times. She put her hand over her stomach. I'm not staying here, she said. All right. I can't be in this house. Not yet. Maybe not ever. There's too much in these walls. All right. I'll let you find me somewhere else. Somewhere that isn't Greenwich. And isn't the penthouse? And isn't anywhere I've been with you before? Somewhere in the city. An apartment building with a doorman. A real doorman, not one of your men in a uniform. I want to be able to go to my own doctor. I want to be able to see my friends. I want to keep working. I'm copy editing, Victor. I have clients. I'm not giving that up. And I want anything. I want you to sleep somewhere else. He looked at her. I mean it, she said. If I do this, if I let you put me somewhere, you don't sleep there. You don't have a key. You come when I say, and you leave when I say. And if I say don't come for a week, you don't come for a week. Those are my rules. That's the only way I can do this and still be a person. Yes. Yes? Yes, Lena. Whatever you want. Don't say whatever you want like a man in a movie. Say it like a man who understands he is going to have to mean it. He almost smiled. The small private not smile. It was against her will, a thing her chest responded to. I understand, he said. I'm going to have to mean it. Yes. She nodded. Once. She picked up the spoon. She ate a little more soup. It had gone lukewarm, but it was still good, and her stomach still wanted it. And she ate slowly because she understood now that she was eating for the three of them, and also, in a way she did not entirely want to acknowledge. For him, a little, because he had stood in this kitchen in his charcoal sweater and looked up a recipe on the internet and cut bread badly. And she was a woman who had been through a great many things, but she had not yet become a woman who could refuse such a thing when it was set down in front of her. She finished the bowl. Lena. Thank you. Don't thank me for eating soup, Victor, I swear to God. All right. She pushed the bowl away. She folded her arms on the table. She looked at him across the 3 feet of old wood that had held every important conversation of their marriage, and she said quietly, Take me back to the city. Tonight. Find the place tomorrow. I'll move when you tell me to move. I'll trust you on the building. I'll trust you on the doorman. But tonight, I sleep in my own apartment, alone, and tomorrow we start. Yes. And Victor, if you lie to me about one thing, about any of the 4, about the 5th, about anything, I take the kids and you never see us again, and I will find a way, even from you. I found a way for 6 months. I'll find a way forever. Do you understand me? He looked at her for a long moment. I understand you, he said. Say it back. If I lie to you, you take them and I never see you again. Good. She stood up. Her back hurt. He stood up too, but he did not come around the table. He stayed where he was. He watched her cross the kitchen, toward the hall, toward the courtyard where the green sedan was waiting, and she stopped at the doorway and she turned around one more time, and she looked at him, this small, dangerous, tired man in his grandfather's kitchen, and she said, not quite steadily, The soup was good. I'm glad. Don't get used to complimenting me. That's a one-time thing. Understood. She went out through the hall. She went out the front door. She came down the stone steps into the gray afternoon, and Carl was already at the car, the door open, and he did not say anything. He just held the door and waited. She got in. She looked back at the house once, at the black shutters and the empty tulip beds, and then she looked forward, and Carl closed her door and went around and got in and started the engine. As they turned out of the long drive between the bare oaks, Lena took the small black phone out of her pocket. She looked at it, at the single letter V in the corner of the screen. She did not put it back in her pocket. She held it in her hand, on her lap, all the way back to the city, the whole hour of it, and when they crossed back onto the West Side Highway, and the skyline came up through the windshield, gray and wet and enormous. One of the babies kicked, twice, quick and sharp, low and to the left. Lena pressed her palm over the place. I know, she whispered. I know, I know. The sedan carried her south into the lights. The new building was on East 63rd, 12 stories of pre-war stone with a green awning and a doorman named Gus, who had been working the lobby for 31 years and had been a Marine before that, and who, when Lena walked in on Thursday morning with 2 suitcases and a box of books, took one look at her and said, Mrs. Marsh, welcome home. Let me get those, and did not ask a single question about why a pregnant woman in a borrowed coat was moving in alone at 10 in the morning with no mover and no husband in sight. She had insisted on Marsh. The paperwork said Marsh. The mailbox said Marsh. Victor had not argued. Victor had, in the 48 hours between the soup in Greenwich and the keys in her hand, done almost nothing she had expected him to do, and almost everything she had told him she wanted. The apartment was on the 8th floor, a one-bedroom with a small second room that could be a nursery, windows facing east over a quiet side street with a kindergarten on the corner. There were fresh flowers on the kitchen counter, yellow tulips, out of season, expensive, and a note under the vase in his small, precise handwriting that said only, "If you don't like the flowers, I'll stop sending them. Tell me." V. She did not tell him to stop. She did not tell him anything for 3 days. She unpacked slowly, a suitcase a day, because her back gave out if she bent too far at the waist. She hung her clothes in the closet. She put her books on the built-in shelves in the living room. She called Dr. Liu's office and moved her next appointment to the following Tuesday. And because she could not help herself, she looked at the billing screen when she was on hold and saw that her outstanding balance had been reduced to zero sometime in the last 24 hours by a payment from an account she did not recognize. She closed the window. She didn't say anything. On Friday morning, Gus buzzed up. "Mrs. Marsh, there's a Mr. Hale in the lobby. He's asking if it's all right to come up. He said to tell you he'll leave if you say the word." She stood in her kitchen in her socks and a long sweater with her hand on the counter. She looked at the tulips. She looked at the wall. She thought about 3 deadbolts on West 47th and the orange pinprick of a cigarette in a parked car. And she thought about the green sedan and Carl and the bowl of chicken soup with no garlic in it. And she said, "Send him up, Gus. Thank you." "Yes, ma'am." She opened the door before he knocked because she did not want to hear the knock, did not want to have that sound in her new apartment. He was standing in the hallway in a dark wool coat, hands in his pockets, and he looked at her a long moment before he said anything. She had the strange sense, looking at him in the hallway light, that he was memorizing her, in case this was the last time. That he did that every time now. That he had probably done it the whole 5 years they had been married, and she had simply never noticed. "Come in," she said. "Thank you." He came in. He did not take off his coat at first. He stood in the small entryway with his hands in his pockets, and he looked around at the kitchen and the living room and the narrow hall, and he said quietly, "It's a nice apartment. It's yours. It's yours. I signed the lease in your name, I've told you." "You paid for it?" "Yes." "That still makes it yours where I come from." "Lena, I'm not fighting. I'm just saying. I'm keeping track." "All right." He took off his coat. She took it from him. She hung it on one of the hooks by the door, a small, stupid, wifely motion, and they both noticed it, and neither of them said anything about it. And she turned away quickly and went into the kitchen so he would not see her face. "I made coffee," she said. "Decaf. You won't like it." "Decaf is fine." "You hate decaf." "I'll drink it." "I'll drink." She poured him a cup. She poured herself one. She set his on the counter in front of him, 2 feet away, so he would not have to brush her hand taking it. He noticed that too. He did not say anything. He picked up the cup with both hands, and he held it in front of him, not drinking, just holding, and he waited. "So," she said. "So, why are you here?" "I wanted to see the apartment. I wanted to see that you'd unpacked. I wanted to ask you a question." "Ask it." "Tuesday. The appointment with Dr. Liu." "Yes." "Would you consider letting me come with you?" She looked at him over the rim of her cup. "Not into the room," he said. "Not the exam. Not if you don't want me there. Into the waiting room. That's all. I'd sit in the waiting room. I wouldn't talk to her. I wouldn't introduce myself. I'd just sit there, Lena, and then I'd drive you home. Gus can get me a cab." "I know. I'm not an invalid. I can take a cab to 58th Street. "I know." "Victor." "I know, Lena. I know. It isn't about a cab. It's about me wanting to be in the building while you hear how they're doing. I'm asking. You say no and I don't come. I won't follow you there. I won't have anyone follow you there. I'm asking." She set her cup down. She looked at him, at the way he was holding the coffee cup, at the split knuckle on his right thumb, which had healed a little since the elevator but was still pink, still obvious. She looked at his hair, at the gray at the temples, at the cut at his hairline, which had almost faded. She looked at him, and she tried, the way she had been trying for 3 days, to decide whether to be angry. Anger was simpler. Anger she had a template for. But he was asking. That was the thing she kept coming back to, alone in the new apartment at 3 in the morning with her hand on her belly. He was asking. He had asked about the soup. He had asked about coming here today. He was asking to sit in a waiting room. These were, individually, small things. These were, together, a language he had never spoken in 5 years of marriage, and she did not know. Yet, whether he had learned it in the 6 months she was gone, or whether he was learning it now, on the fly, one sentence at a time. "You can come to the waiting room," she said. He let out a breath she had not, until that moment, realized he was holding. "Thank you." "Don't." "I'm going to. Thank you." If you make it weird, Victor, if you stand up when she comes out and try to shake her hand or say something or do anything at all other than sit there and read a magazine, you don't come to the next one. "I'll read a magazine. I mean it. I will read a magazine, Lena. I will read the worst magazine they have. I will read a magazine about celebrities I do not recognize, and I will not speak to anyone, and I will not look anyone in the eye." She laughed. It surprised her more than it surprised him. A small, real laugh, from the middle of her chest, the first one in days, and she lifted her hand to her mouth too late to catch it. He looked at her over the rim of his cup. "There she is," he said softly. "Don't." "I'm not doing anything. You're doing something. I'm drinking coffee. You're looking at me. You're my wife. Victor." "I'm sorry. I know. I won't do it again." She turned away. She opened the refrigerator and looked into it without seeing anything in it. She closed it. She put her hand flat on the counter, and she breathed, and she did not turn back around until she was certain her face had gone back to neutral. "There's something else I want to tell you," he said behind her. "What?" "Carla Voss." She turned. His face had changed. The quiet, careful thing was gone. What was under it was what she had always been afraid of. Not a cruelty, exactly, but a kind of focus, a thing that went still and cold in him when he was about to do work. It was the face he had worn the night of the bleeding man at the kitchen table. It was the face he had worn on their first wedding anniversary, when a man on the sidewalk outside the restaurant had stepped too close to her and Victor had gone between them without a word. And the man had looked at Victor's face and stepped back and apologized and walked away very fast. "What about her?" she said. "She surfaced in Boston 2 nights ago. One of my people saw her in the lobby of a hotel on Tremont Street. She was meeting with a man named Esteban Qureshi, who I know, who works with people I know. It means she's not hiding anymore. It means she thinks she's ready." "Ready for what?" "To take what she thinks is hers." "Which is?" "Everything." Lena put her hand on her belly. The small flutter was not there, not at the moment. They slept sometimes at odd hours. She had learned their rhythms without meaning to. "What does that mean for me?" she said. "For us." "It means she knows you're back." "How?" "I don't know yet. The Tuesday in the dining room was seen. I've been working on who saw it. The staff, a waiter, the hostess. Somebody talked. Somebody always talks. I'll find out who. But it's out there, Lena. It's been out there since Tuesday. She'd have heard by Wednesday night. She'd have moved on Thursday morning, which means she's been moving for 2 days, and the meeting in Boston is the first thing we've seen, and there is almost certainly a second thing we haven't." "Victor." "Yes." "What is the second thing?" "I don't know." "Guess." "I won't guess, not with you, not about this." "Guess, Victor." He looked at her. "She'll try to take you," he said. "Not kill you, take you. I'm the one she wants to hurt. You alive is worth more than you dead. You alive and pregnant is worth—" his jaw moved once, "is worth more than almost anything she has." Lena sat down. She had been standing by the counter and her knees simply went out from under her, and she sat down on the kitchen stool at the small counter, and she put both hands flat on the cool marble, and she breathed, in and out, the way she had practiced with Dr. Liu, the way the book said. "Lena, give me a minute." "Lena, give me a minute, Victor." He did not come to her. He stayed on the far side of the kitchen island, 3 feet away, with his coffee cup in his hands. He waited. She could feel him waiting. It should have made her angry, and it didn't, quite, because she could also feel that he was not waiting the way he used to wait. He was not waiting to manage her. He was just waiting for her to be able to hear the next sentence. There was a difference. She had not known before that there was a difference. "Okay," she said, after a long moment. "Okay. Can I tell you what I'm going to do?" "Yes." "I've put 2 people in the lobby, not in uniform. They're a couple. They rent the studio on the 2nd floor. They'll be there when you come in, when you go out. They'll be at the deli on the corner when you go to the deli. If you go to see Mira, they'll be 2 tables away. If you go to Dr. Liu's, they'll be in the hallway. I'm not putting them on you like a leash. I am not going to... It's a leash, Victor. It's a leash. Yes, I'm sorry, I know. I am telling you about it instead of hiding it from you, which is not the same thing as not doing it, but it's what I can offer you right now. I'm telling you their names. Her name is Nadia. His name is Luca. They've worked for me a long time. They will not be friendly to you because that isn't their job, but they will also not be cold. If you want them to be different than they are, tell me, and I will tell them, and they will be different. Okay, the second thing, and this is the harder one. I want to move you to a house in the country, not Greenwich, somewhere north. I have a property in Columbia County, a farm. It's quiet. No one knows about it. Not the Mazzettis, not Reyes, not Voss. I bought it through a trust in someone else's name 3 years ago. It's never been in my name. It's never been on a list. It's... No. Lena. No, Victor. You promised me. Not a house you control. Not something out of the city. I said a building with a doorman. I said my friends, my doctor, my life. This apartment was the compromise. Not the farm. I know what I promised. Then don't. I am telling you the position. You said don't lie to you. I am not lying to you. The position is that in this apartment I can protect you well. In the farm, I can protect you better. I'm telling you the truth about that because you asked me to tell you the truth. And then I'm telling you immediately after that the decision is yours, Lena. The decision is yours. I am not moving you. I am telling you what exists. She stared at him. I hate that you learned how to talk like this, she said. Like what? Like a grown man. Lena, I hate that I fought with you for 5 years to say one sentence like a grown man, and I leave. And I'm gone for 6 months, and now you're standing in my kitchen saying 4 in a row. I hate it. I hate that you could have, and you didn't, and now you can. He was very still. I know, he said. You know. Yes, I know. That's the thing Lena, that's the thing I have to live with. That you were here the whole time, that you were asking for something simple. And I was in a house in Greenwich with both hands free, and I did not do it. And you ran. And then I did it. I did it in a motel room in Trenton at 4 in the morning, 8 weeks after you left, sitting on the floor of a bathroom because I understood I was going to lose you if I didn't, and I had already lost you. I know. I know what it looks like, Lena. I know what it is. She looked at him. She did not know what to do with what he had just said. A year ago, she would have wept, because a year ago she would have been waiting that long to hear him say something like that, and the sound of it would have unbuilt her. Now, in the kitchen in East 63rd in the late morning light, with a zero balance at Dr. Liu's and tulips on the counter and the word Boston still sitting on the tile between them, she felt nothing like weeping. She felt tired and irritated, and against her will, a small mean fondness for him that she did not want to examine. I'm not going to the farm, she said. All right. I'm staying here with Nadia and Luca, and you're going to figure out Carla Voss, and you're going to tell me everything, every day, not after. Every day. Even if it's small. Every day. Say it back. Every day, Lena. Good. She picked up her coffee. It was cold. She drank it anyway. He came carefully around the island. Not all the way. He stopped at the corner of it, 6 feet from her, with the counter between them, and he set his cup down. I need to go, he said. There's a call. Okay? Tuesday, 10:30. I'll be in the lobby. I won't come up. You come down. Fine. Lena. Eat lunch. Victor. Please. Fine, I'll eat lunch. Go. He went. She stood in the kitchen after he left. She stood for a long time. She listened to the elevator descend. She heard, faintly, Gus's voice in the lobby and the sound of the street door opening and closing. She walked into the living room and looked down through the window at the sidewalk, and she watched Victor come out of the green awning and stand at the curb for a moment, looking up at her building. He could not see her. The angle was wrong, but he stood there a long moment anyway, his hands in his pockets, the wind moving his coat, and then a black car pulled up and he got in without looking back and was gone. She did not eat lunch. She slept instead. She slept on the couch in the living room under a blanket Mira had bought her 2 years ago for Christmas, and she dreamed for the first time in months of the house in Greenwich, of the upstairs hall in the late afternoon, and the way the light came in, and the two small silhouettes at the end of the hall that, when she woke up with her face wet and her hand on her belly, she understood had been her children. The weekend went quietly. On Saturday, Mira came over with groceries and a bottle of expensive non-alcoholic wine she had read about in a magazine, and the two of them sat on the floor of the living room and ate dumplings out of the bag. On Sunday, Lena worked. She had 3 manuscripts stacked on the corner of her desk, 2 technical journals, and a memoir by a woman who had been a corporate lawyer before she had started an organic dairy. And Lena sat in her new chair by her new window, and she worked through the dairy memoir for 6 straight hours with a blue pencil. And when she looked up, it was dark, and she had not thought about Victor or Carla Voss or any of it for a whole afternoon. And she understood, sitting there with her hand cramped around the pencil, that this was what she had been fighting for. Not safety, exactly. A stretch of hours in which her own brain belonged to her. On Monday morning, Nadia came up. Lena had not met her yet. Victor had sent a text. If it's all right, Nadia will come up and introduce herself. Say no any time. And Lena had written back, okay. And at 10 on Monday, the buzzer rang and Gus's voice came up with a little extra warmth in it, because apparently Gus liked Nadia already. Mrs. Marsh, it's the lady from 2B. She says you're expecting her. Send her up. Nadia was maybe 30. She had dark hair pulled back in a low ponytail and a face that was not beautiful and not plain. An interesting face. The kind of face that was very easy to forget if you were not paying attention, and very hard to forget if you were. She was wearing jeans and a forest green sweater and beat-up sneakers, and she was holding a small brown paper bag. Hi, she said, at the door. I brought you a scone. You don't have to eat it. I didn't know what else to bring. Lena laughed. Come in, she said. Nadia came in. She set the scone on the kitchen counter. She did not look around the apartment the way most people did, scanning for art or furniture or something to talk about. She looked at the windows and the door and the angles of the hallway and the back of the kitchen where the fire escape window was, and then she turned back to Lena with a small professional smile. Sorry, she said. Habit. It's all right. He told me to be normal. With you. I'm not always good at normal. I'll try. You're doing fine. Thank you. They sat at the counter. Nadia tore the scone in half and gave Lena the bigger half. Lena ate it without meaning to. It was very good. It had some kind of berry in it that was tart, not sweet, and Lena realized she had not eaten anything yet that day and had gotten to 10:30 on an empty stomach. Luca is my husband, Nadia said. Actually, not for cover. I wanted you to know. Okay? I have a son. He's 4. He's with my mother in Queens. He'll come visit on weekends. If you see a small boy in the hallway, that's mine. He's usually carrying a dinosaur. Okay. I'm telling you because, I don't know, I thought you'd want to know we were real people. Before we were this. Lena looked at her. Thank you, she said. Yes, I wanted to know that. Nadia nodded, once. She did not say anything else for a while. She ate her half of the scone. She looked at the tulips on the counter. Her mouth moved into something that was almost a smile. He brought you those himself, you know, she said. What? The flowers. He didn't send someone. He went into the shop on 61st on Wednesday morning at 7 because he didn't want anyone to see him, and he stood there for 20 minutes looking at every bucket. And the owner's known me for years. It's how he found the place. The owner told him to pick one, and he picked the yellow ones. And he wrote the note at the counter on a piece of paper the owner gave him. I just thought you should know. Lena looked at the tulips. Why are you telling me that? She said. Nadia shrugged. Because I know him, she said. I have known him a long time. He is not, I will not say he is a good man, because you already know that he isn't, and I will not insult you by saying otherwise. But he is trying. He is trying very hard right now to be a different kind of man than the man he has always been. And I think if you're going to be anywhere near him, it helps to know that, not to forgive him, just to know. Nadia. Don't talk to me about him. Not like this. Not now. Okay? I'm not angry. You should be. I'm not. Okay? Nadia got up. She took her half of the scone wrapper and put it in the trash under the sink. She washed her hands. She was, Lena noted, completely at home in other people's kitchens, the way people who had spent their adult lives in other people's apartments often were. Last thing, Nadia said, drying her hands. Then I'll go. What? If anything ever happens. Anything. A knock you don't expect, a sound in the hall. Anyone in this building who is not a person you know. You don't call Victor. You don't call the doorman. You press the button on the black phone once. Just once. You don't have to say anything. Luca and I will be at your door in 40 seconds. Under a minute. Every single time. You don't need a reason. You don't need to be sure. You press it, and we come. Do you understand? Yes. Say it back. Press the button. Don't call. Don't call Victor. Press the button. 40 seconds. Good. Nadia left. On Monday night, Lena took a long bath. She sat in the tub with her hands on her stomach and watched the babies move under her skin, the strange alien ripples that still, at 22 weeks, stopped her heart every time she saw them. She talked to them, the way she had been talking to them for months now. She told them about the new apartment. She told them about Mira and the dumplings and the lady downstairs who had a little boy who carried a dinosaur. She told them quietly about their father. She said, "He is trying, I think. I don't know if it will be enough. I don't know if I can let it be enough. But he is trying. That's a thing. I want you to know that's a thing." She slept. Tuesday morning was gray and cold and windy, the kind of New York November that made your eyes water on the street. She put on a blue sweater and the only pair of maternity jeans she owned and a long coat, and she went down to the lobby at 10:25. And Gus looked up and smiled and said, "Mr. Hale is out front, Mrs. Marsh." He was standing on the sidewalk next to a different car. A black sedan this time, not the SUV, more discreet. Dmitri was at the wheel. Victor was in a dark gray coat and no hat, his hands in his pockets. The wind was pulling at his hair. He straightened when he saw her come through the door, and he did not smile, but something happened to his face, some small opening which he tried to hide by looking down and pretending to check for a cab. "Mrs. Marsh," he said for Gus's benefit carefully. "Let's go, Victor." They got in. Dmitri pulled away from the curb. The ride to 58th was 7 minutes in traffic. Lena looked out the window. Victor did not look at her. He looked down at his own hands folded on his knee. He had washed the split on his thumb. He had put a small flesh-colored bandage over it. It was, Lena thought, the first time she had ever seen him with a Band-Aid. "You put a Band-Aid on," she said. "I don't think I've ever seen you with a Band-Aid. Nadia made me." "Nadia made you." She said the split was going to get infected. She bought them at the drugstore on her way over. She came to my office and she put it on me herself because she said I wouldn't do it. She's not wrong. She's not wrong. He looked out his window. Lena looked out hers. The silence between them was not comfortable exactly, but it was not the silence of strangers either. It was some third thing, something that was only what it was because of the two of them specifically, the particular architecture of the 5 years they had built together and the 6 months she had spent breaking it apart. The clinic was on the second floor of a medical building that did not look medical from the outside, a brownstone with a brass plaque and a lobby with a single potted fig tree. Victor got out first. He held the car door. He did not offer her his hand, and she did not ask for it, but he kept his hand hovering close to her elbow, not touching, as she stepped up onto the sidewalk, and she thought, he is learning. Somebody taught him. The waiting room was small. A beige couch, 2 chairs, a coffee table with a stack of parenting magazines, and one very old copy of The New Yorker. There was nobody else there. A receptionist behind a sliding glass window who nodded at Lena and glanced at Victor and did not visibly react, although something in her face sharpened, and Lena thought, she knows. Or she's guessing. Whatever. It doesn't matter. "I'll sit right here," Victor said, lowering himself carefully onto one of the chairs. "I won't move. I promise." "Read a magazine, Victor." "I am reading a magazine." "You haven't picked one up yet." He reached without looking and picked up the nearest one. It was Parents. On the cover was a smiling couple holding a baby made of some ethnicity the magazine's art department had clearly been given a memo about. Victor opened it to a random page and began to read a feature about solid foods with the same grave concentration he had once brought to a contract for a Long Island dock lease. Lena laughed out loud. The receptionist looked up. "Mrs. Marsh, Dr. Liu can see you now." She went in. The appointment was routine. Weight, blood pressure, heartbeat. 2 heartbeats, in fact, because Dr. Liu always gave her a little extra time on the monitor, because Dr. Liu understood, without Lena ever telling her, that Lena needed the sound. 2 drums, at slightly different speeds, one slightly faster. Lena closed her eyes and listened to them for a full minute. "They're doing beautifully," Dr. Liu said. "You're doing beautifully. You've gained 1.5 pounds, which is exactly right. How are you feeling? Tired? Sleep? Not great. Stress? Some." Dr. Liu looked at her over her glasses. "I'm not going to ask," she said after a moment. "Unless you want me to." "I don't." "Okay." Dr. Liu took off the glasses. She folded them. She put them on her desk. "Lena, I want you to hear me. At this point in a twin pregnancy, stress is not just emotional. It has physical consequences. I'm asking you, as your doctor, not as your friend, to do whatever you have to do in the next 4 weeks to lower the temperature in your life. Whatever. I'm not telling you what that is. I'm telling you that I can see it on you. I can see it in your blood pressure. Do you understand?" "Yes." "Good." Dr. Liu stood up. She shook Lena's hand. Lena dressed. She walked out into the waiting room with her coat over her arm. Victor was still in the chair with the parents' magazine. He was on page 31. His eyes came up the second she stepped into the room, and he searched her face, and she gave him a small nod. "We're fine. Everything is fine." And his shoulders came down 1/4 of an inch, and he stood up, and he set the magazine back on the coffee table, exactly where he had found it. They came down to the street together. Dmitri was across the block, double parked. The wind had picked up. The sky had gone darker, a low, heavy gray, and there was that particular smell in the air that meant snow was coming later, even if the forecast hadn't said so yet. "They're okay," Lena said as they crossed the sidewalk. "She said they're beautiful." Good, that's good. "She also told me to lower my stress levels." Ah, I laughed. On the inside, I did not laugh on the outside, because Dr. Liu is a serious woman. Lena. I'm going to do everything I can to lower your stress levels. I just want you to know, starting now. You can start by opening the car door. Already doing it. He reached for the handle. It was a dark green Volvo wagon that pulled out of the line of parked cars across the street. It pulled out too fast. Dmitri across the block saw it before Victor did. Lena heard his voice in her ear, very close and very sudden, although she did not remember seeing him cross the street, and later she would not remember how he had gotten there so fast. Dmitri saying, sharp and low, "Boss," and Victor's hand closing on her arm for the first time in 6 months, hard, pulling her back from the curb, and the Volvo braking across the sidewalk between her and the black sedan, its passenger door opening before it had fully stopped. A man in a dark jacket and a gray knit cap coming out of that passenger side with something in his hand that Lena could not at first identify and then understood, with a cold clarity she would remember for the rest of her life, was a length of black nylon webbing with a loop at the end of it. The kind of thing you would use to lift a heavy box or drag a grown woman into a car. Victor put his body between her and the man. He did not say anything. He did not reach into his coat. He simply stepped, one clean step, so that he was between Lena and the sidewalk, and the man in the gray knit cap checked for a half second, and in that half second, Dmitri hit him from the side, not at the chest but at the knee, and the man went down onto the concrete, and the nylon loop skittered across the sidewalk, and somewhere behind her, Lena heard a woman across the street, a pedestrian, a stranger, start to scream. The scream did something to the air. It cut the street in half. A man on the corner dropped the paper cup he was carrying, coffee spilling dark over the concrete, and a woman with a stroller turned her stroller around so fast one of the wheels jumped the curb, and for a second Lena could hear everything, every small thing, the scrape of the nylon loop on the sidewalk, the hard breathing of the man on the ground, the engine of the green Volvo idling, the click of a lighter somewhere far away. "Get in the car," Victor said. He did not raise his voice. He did not turn his head. His hand was still closed on her arm, not tight now but firm, guiding, and his body was still between her and the Volvo, and he was moving her, sideways, small steps, toward the black sedan Dmitri had left running at the curb. Lena, car. Victor, car. She went. The back door was already open. She didn't remember opening it. Somebody had opened it. Maybe Dmitri. On the way through. She half fell into the back seat, her knee catching the door frame, and the pain of it was a small real thing she could hold on to. And she twisted around and she saw, through the back window, Dmitri driving his knee down into the back of the man on the ground. And the driver of the Volvo. A second man, bearded, younger, in a brown jacket, getting out of the driver's side with his hand already going inside his coat. And Victor, who had closed the door behind Lena with his left hand, turning on the sidewalk to face the bearded man with his right already free of his own coat pocket, already raised, already holding something dark and small. "Oh no," Lena said. "Oh no, oh no, oh no!" The first shot came from the bearded man. It went wide. She heard the sound of it. Not a crack, like in movies, but a hard flat pop that seemed too small to be what it was. And she heard, a second after, a piece of stone come off the building behind Victor, a small chip flying into the air, and she understood in a detached way that the shot had missed Victor's head by maybe 18 inches. Victor fired twice. Both shots hit. The bearded man went down, sat down almost, against the side of the Volvo, one hand coming up to his chest, the other still inside his coat. He looked surprised. He looked, Lena thought, very young now that he was sitting down. Maybe 25. Maybe 23. He looked at Victor with a kind of puzzled offense, as if he had been promised this would go differently, and then his head tipped forward and he didn't move anymore. Dmitri had the first man face down on the sidewalk with a knee in the small of his back. He was talking into his coat, a radio, Lena realized, not a phone. In short, fast sentences she couldn't make out. Victor opened her car door. "Scoot over," he said. "Victor." "Scoot over, Lena." She scooted. He got in beside her, closed the door, said, "Dmitri, go," through the open window, and a second later Dmitri was in the driver's seat. Had left the first man with someone else. Some other body that had appeared out of nowhere. A man in a black coat Lena had not seen a second ago and did not remember ever seeing before. And the sedan pulled out into 58th with its tires barking against the wet pavement and was gone around the corner before the first police siren started up in the distance behind them. Victor put the gun away. He put it away carefully, with his right hand, thumbing something on the side of it first, and then sliding it back under his coat into the holster Lena had never in 5 years of marriage allowed herself to notice he was wearing. His hand was shaking. She saw it. He saw her see it. He put his hand flat on his knee to stop it. "Are you hurt?" he said. "No." "Look at me." "I'm not hurt, Victor." "Look at me, please." She looked at him. His face was wrong. It was a color she had never seen on him before, a chalky pale that made the cut at his hairline stand out pink. His eyes were too wide. His breathing was audible, short, quick breaths through his nose, and she realized, with a small dislocating shock, that Victor Hale, who had once, on their second anniversary, been grazed by a bullet across the outside of his thigh, and come home and asked her calmly for a clean shirt before he had asked her for a bandage, was in something close to shock. "I'm not hurt," she said again. "Victor, look at me. I'm not hurt. They didn't touch me." "The baby, the babies are fine. I'm fine. I hit my knee on the door, that's all." "Your knee?" "The door, Victor, just the door. It's going to be a bruise." He closed his eyes. He put his hand shaking against the side of her face. He did not hold her face. He just laid his palm there, on the curve of her cheek below her eye, and he left it there a moment, and then he took it away again. His hand had been cold from outside. She had not realized how cold until it was gone. "Dmitri," he said. "Boss." "Not the apartment." "No, boss." "Not 63rd, not Greenwich, the Long Island house." "Yes, boss." "Call ahead. Tell Carl. 2 people up front, 2 on the water side. The road blocked at the turn. I want the place closed by the time we get there." "Yes, boss." "And I want to know in an hour who those 2 men were." "Yes, boss." Lena was listening to all of this from what felt like a great distance. The adrenaline was coming down, in her, in little sick waves. Her hands were shaking, Her teeth were chattering in a way that seemed disconnected from temperature. She put her hand on her belly and she pressed, waiting, willing the small flutter to happen, and for a long, terrible second she felt nothing at all. Then the smaller one kicked, hard, indignant. A strong, sharp jab low and to the left, as if to say, we're fine, why are you pressing so hard? Lena burst into tears. She had not cried like that in 6 months. She had been saving up. All the small crying she had not done in the motel in Albany, in the room in Newark, in the 3 a.m. kitchen on 47th Street, came out now, in the back of a black sedan on the FDR, in great wet shaking sobs, with her hand pressed flat against her stomach, and her face turned into the collar of her coat because she did not want to look at Victor while she did it. Victor didn't touch her. He stayed on his side of the seat. He did not reach for her. He did not say her name. He sat there with his hands folded in his lap and his wet slate eyes on her face, and he let her cry, and she understood. Even through the crying, even through the shaking, even through the smaller one kicking furiously against her palm, that this, too, was a thing he had learned. That a year ago he would have reached for her. That a year ago he would have pulled her against his chest and held her there, tight, too tight, making the crying about him, making the fixing about him. He sat 6 inches away from her and he did not move, and he let her have it. I'm sorry, he said, after a long time, when the crying had gone down to hiccups. Lena, I am so sorry. Don't. I'm going to. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I am going to make this stop. I swear to you, I'm going to make this stop. Victor, listen to me. Yes. You killed someone. Just now, on the sidewalk, on 58th Street. There are people filming it on their phones right now. Yes. There are going to be police. Yes. What is the next hour? He looked out the window. They were coming up on the bridge, the iron crossing of it dark against the sick low sky. The wind off the water had teeth now. The first scattered flakes of what Lena had smelled in the air earlier were starting to come down, small and hard, bouncing off the windshield. The next hour, he said, I'm going to be driving you to a house on the north shore of Long Island. It is not in my name. It is in the name of a trust that has no connection to me. There is nobody living there. It has a generator, food, clothes, and a doctor who comes when I call him, and a woman named Ilsa who will cook and not ask questions. Nobody will come for us there tonight. Tomorrow morning, a man named Peter Grasso is going to call me. Peter Grasso is an attorney I have known for 20 years. He has kept a written statement from me in a safe for the last 11 years. The statement is about a number of things I have done and a number of people I have done them with, and it is structured in a way that, if a certain kind of thing happens to me, ruins a number of men I no longer work with. Peter Grasso will call 3 people tomorrow morning on my behalf. Those 3 people will, within 6 hours, make it clear to the Manhattan DA's office that whatever happened on 58th Street this afternoon was a self-defense situation between bad men. There will be no press. There will be no charges. There will be a closed file on a desk that will sit there for 2 years and then be moved to storage. That is the next hour. That is the next week. I am telling you because you asked me to tell you the truth. Every day, even the ugly. This is ugly. This is what it looks like. I am telling you. Lena listened. She did not say anything for a long time. She watched the snow come down on the bridge. She watched the East River go gray-white below them, and the low stacks of queens going by on the other side, and she put her hand on her belly, over the smaller one, and she waited for her chest to stop shaking. Victor, she said finally, you are not going to protect me with that statement forever. No. At some point, somebody is going to stop being afraid of it. Yes, today it worked. Tomorrow it will still work. A year from now, it might not. I know. So what is your plan in a year? He was silent. Victor, I am working on that, Lena. Work faster. Yes. Work faster. Yes. She closed her eyes. She leaned her head back against the cool leather of the seat. The sedan moved onto the Long Island Expressway, and the traffic was light because it was early afternoon and the snow was starting in earnest now, and some part of her, some detached, wrung-out, practical part, was thinking, we are going to be at the house by 3. I can sleep there. I can sleep for an hour. Then I can think. Mira, she said suddenly, opening her eyes. I have to call Mira. She was going to meet me for lunch. She'll be... Oh God, she'll use my phone. I don't want to use your phone. Use yours. I have someone on her already. Lena turned her head. What? 5 minutes after I heard the shot, I told someone to put a person outside her office. A quiet person. Not to approach her. Just to be there, in case someone... Lena. In case someone else knew you saw her. I'm telling you because I asked you to tell me. Yes. She did not know what to do with the pulse of gratitude that moved through her then, clean and unwelcome. She pulled out her own phone instead. Her hand was still shaking, but it worked well enough to dial. Mira picked up on the first ring. Carter? Mira? Oh my God. Oh my God. Carter, I'm okay. Tell me you're okay. I'm okay. I'm in a car. I'm going somewhere safe. I can't tell you where. I will tell you later. I wanted you to hear my voice. Lena, I saw a video on the news. Somebody put it up on the news. There was a man on the ground and... Don't watch it. Mira, don't watch it. Listen to me. I'm fine. The babies are fine. I'm going to disappear for a few days. Maybe a week. I will call you. I promise I will call you. Don't come to the apartment. Don't come looking for me. Please. If anybody contacts you, a reporter, a cop, anybody, you don't know anything. You had lunch plans. I didn't show up. That's all you know. Lena, please, Mira. Lena, Dev told me that there's a man in a gray coat standing across the street from my office. He's been there 20 minutes. That's mine. I mean, he's there because of me. He's not going to talk to you. He's there so nothing happens. Jesus, I know. Jesus, Lena, I know. Are you going to be okay? I think so. Do you need anything? Yeah, I do. What? Don't stop being my friend. Mira made a sound that was not quite a laugh and not quite a sob. Carter, oh my God, I'm not stopping being your friend. I'm never stopping being your friend. You don't get to be my friend anymore at this point. You are my friend. I didn't agree to this. It happened to me in college. It is a structural fact of my life. Do you understand me? Yeah? Call me. I will. Call me, Carter. I will. She hung up. She put the phone face down on her leg. She looked out the window. The snow was thickening. The sedan had crossed into Nassau County. She could not remember when they had crossed into Nassau County. Your friend is a good person, Victor said quietly. Yes? I'm sorry that I have made her life harder today. Thank you for saying that. Lena. I need to ask you something. What? When we get to the house, there's going to be a doctor there already. I called him from the car. He is a friend. He will check you. He will check the babies. If anything at all feels wrong, if anything hurts, if you feel anything that is not how you felt this morning, you tell him, not me, him. Do you understand? You do not have to be polite. You do not have to worry about how it sounds. You tell him everything. I'm asking this because you are stubborn, and I love you, and I know you. She turned her head. He was looking at the back of the driver's seat, not at her. He had said it in the same even quiet voice he had said everything in. He had slid the sentence in between two other sentences, the way a man slips a check into a folded newspaper on a table so that the person across from him can pretend not to have seen it. I love you. It sat there between them on the leather seat. She did not respond to it. He did not look at her. The sedan moved through the snow, and the trees on either side of the expressway were going white at the edges, and Dmitri was driving very carefully, very slowly, at a speed that looked unconcerned but was, Lena understood, extremely specific. I'll tell him everything, she said after a while. Thank you. That was all. They did not say anything else until the exit. The house was on a cove. Long Island dropped away from the road, and there was a single lane of gravel with a split-rail fence on both sides, and then a small iron gate that opened for them without anyone visibly opening it. And then the gravel kept going through a stand of pines, black against the white ground. And at the end of the pines there was a low, gray shingled house with a wraparound porch, weathered almost the color of the sky. A woman came out onto the porch when the car pulled up. Middle-aged, broad, in a heavy wool cardigan and jeans, her hair in a braid. Ilsa, presumably. She did not smile, but she looked at Lena with a concentrated professional kindness that made Lena want to sit down immediately. A man was standing behind her, gray-haired, compact, with a doctor's bag at his feet. Victor got out. He came around. He opened Lena's door. He did offer his hand this time, and she took it, her own hand still not quite steady, and she let him help her out of the car. His palm was still cold. Her knee, where it had hit the door, was throbbing in a dull, persistent way that was not alarming, only uncomfortable. "Mrs. Hale," the doctor said, at the porch steps. Lena, I'm Paul. I've known Victor since he was 11 years old. I am not going to ask you any questions you do not want to answer. I'm going to listen to your babies for a few minutes, check your blood pressure, check that knee, and then I'm going to make you eat something. In that order. Does that work? Yes. Good. Paul took her into a room off the hallway, a small sitting room with a low fire going in the grate, and he sat her in an armchair. He was quick and gentle. He put the wand on her belly, and she heard them again. The two drums, slightly different speeds, and the one on the left still slightly faster. And she closed her eyes and listened, and when she opened her eyes, Paul was watching her face, not the monitor, and he smiled. "Strong," he said. "Both of them, undisturbed. You are stronger than you know, Lena. You have absorbed a great deal today, and they have not noticed. Please keep telling me that. I will tell you that every 5 minutes for the rest of the afternoon if it helps." He checked her blood pressure. It was high, but not alarmingly so. He looked at her knee, which had developed a small purple bloom the size of a plum. He put something cold on it and wrapped it loosely and told her to keep her leg up for the rest of the night. And then he did exactly what he had said he would do. He took her into the kitchen, where Ilsa had put a bowl of thick beef stew on the counter and a glass of milk and a piece of dark bread with butter. And he sat with her while she ate, making small, undemanding conversation about the ferry schedule and whether the snow would stick, and Lena, to her own surprise, ate all of it. Victor was not in this kitchen. She could hear him, faintly, somewhere in the back of the house, on the phone. Not yelling, never yelling, that wasn't Victor, but speaking in the particular clipped pattern he used when he was giving orders to men who were going to be awake all night because of him. She finished the stew. Ilsa took the bowl. Paul stood up. "I'm going to stay through the morning," he said. "Not because I think anything will happen, because I would like to be here in case it doesn't. That's a very arrogant sentence, but I hope you will forgive it. Sleep, Lena. In this house it is safe to sleep." "Thank you, Paul." "Do not thank me. I was a terrible child who was saved from being a worse adult by Victor's mother many years ago. This is the smallest fraction of that debt." He went. Ilsa went. Lena sat alone in the kitchen with her hand on her belly and her other hand wrapped around the empty glass of milk, and she looked out the window at the snow coming down in the dark over the cove, and after a long while Victor came in. He had taken off his coat, his sleeves were rolled up, his tie was off. He looked, for the first time in 2 days, like a man, not a project. He stood at the doorway of the kitchen for a moment before he came in, as if he wanted her to have the chance to wave him off, and when she didn't, he came and sat down across from her at the small wooden table and laid his hands flat on the wood. "Paul says you're okay," he said. "Yes." "Good." "Victor." "You shot a man today." "Yes." "He's dead." "Yes." "On a sidewalk in broad daylight. In Manhattan." "Yes." "I want to ask you something and I want you to answer me honestly." "Yes." "Was he the first?" He looked at her. For a long time he did not say anything. He looked at his hands on the table. He looked at the grain of the wood. He looked briefly at the small dark window over the sink. And then he said very quietly, "No." "How many?" "Lena." "How many?" "4." "In your life?" "In my life. Including today." "Including today?" "The others?" "Yes." "All in self-defense?" Two were self-defense. One was not self-defense. One was a man who had done something, who was going to keep doing it, and I made a decision. I am not going to pretend it was self-defense to you. I made a decision, and I acted on it. And the fourth, today. Today was self-defense. Yes, you were there. You saw. I saw. Yes. She pressed her palm over her belly. The smaller one was quiet now, sleeping maybe, or the bigger one was lying over her and she could not feel the smaller one through. I don't know what to do with that, she said. I know. I don't know what to do with a man who has killed 3 people before today. I know, Lena. I don't know if I can. I don't know if this is. I know. You don't have to decide anything tonight. You don't have to decide anything this week. I am not asking you to decide anything. I am answering your question because you asked it. Why did you tell me? Because you asked. You could have lied. Yes. You've lied about smaller things. Yes. I have. Not lately, but yes. Why not lie now? He looked up. His eyes were tired in a way she hadn't seen before. Not 5 years of marriage is tired. Not 6 months of looking for her tired. Some older tired under both of those. A tired that went all the way back, maybe, to an 11-year-old boy at a piano in a house in Bensonhurst. Because you are going to raise my children, he said, and I do not want them to have a father they can find out about one day. I want them to have a father they already know, whatever that father is, however small that father turns out to be in their eyes. I do not want a surprise, Lena. Not for them, not for you. I would rather you decide now that you cannot be in a room with me than find out in 10 years that you built a life with a man you did not actually know. I would rather lose you clean than lose you slow. That's why. She looked at him across the table. She thought about this house in Greenwich, about the morning of the bleeding man on the tile, and the way Victor had made the man tea, and the way Victor had looked up at her when she had come into the kitchen, and the way the look on his face had been not shame, not even embarrassment, but a small tired readiness, as if he had known she would come down the stairs and see, and had been, in some corner of himself, waiting for it for years. She thought about the tulip bulbs. She thought about this courthouse in Greenwich. She thought about the letter under the door at 4 a.m, the one that had said, in his handwriting, I am not a good man. I think I could be a better one. I would like to try, with you, if you will have me. V. She had kept the letter. She had taken it with her when she ran. It was, at this moment, in a shoebox at the bottom of a closet in an apartment on West 47th Street that she was never going to set foot in again. Victor. Yes. I want to go to bed. All right. Not with you. I know. Ilsa has made up the bedroom at the back. The one with the water view. There's clothes in the dresser. Things you can sleep in. Paul is in the room next to yours. I'll be downstairs. All night? Yes. Don't come up. I won't. Don't come to the door. I won't. Victor. Thank you for the stew. He looked at her. His mouth did the small knot smile. Ilsa made the stew, Lena. I know, but thank you. She got up. Her knee held. She walked past him and out of the kitchen and up the narrow wooden stairs, one hand on the banister, and she did not look back at him sitting there at the table with his hands flat on the wood. The room at the back of the house was small and warm, a bed with a blue quilt, a window looking out over the dark cove where snow was still falling in thick, silent sheets, turning the water white at the edges. A low lamp on, a nightgown folded neatly on the pillow, not one of hers, but clean and cotton and soft. She changed. She slid into the bed. The sheets were cold at first, and then not. She lay on her back with her hand on her belly, and she listened to the wind coming off the water and the low creak of the old house around her, and she realized, slowly, that for the first time in 6 months, she was not afraid of falling asleep. Not because she was not in danger. She was in more danger tonight than she had been in any night of those 6 months. She knew that. She understood that 4 men, maybe 5, wanted her husband dead and would hurt her to get at him. She understood that she had watched a young man die on a sidewalk today. She understood that her knee hurt and her back hurt and her blood pressure was up and there was snow piling against the window and that somewhere downstairs her husband, the father of her children, the man who had shot twice on 58th Street without hesitating, was sitting in a kitchen with his sleeves rolled up and his hands flat on a table, learning, or pretending to learn, how to be something he had never been. She was not afraid of falling asleep because she was so tired it did not matter anymore whether she was safe. The smaller one kicked once, a small, soft, end-of-the-day kick. "I know," she whispered. "I know, baby. I know." She slept. She did not know, lying there with the snow coming down, that at the same moment, in a hotel suite on the waterfront in Boston, a woman named Carla Voss was setting down her phone on a side table next to a glass of red wine and looking at a man named Esteban Qureshi across a low coffee table and saying very quietly, in the voice she had spent 20 years not raising at men, "He used the gun. On the street, in the daylight, he used the gun." Esteban Qureshi nodded, slowly. "So?" he said. Carla Voss picked up her glass of wine. She looked out the window at the lights of the harbor. Below, a single tugboat was moving slowly out past the point, its lights yellow through the snow. "So we don't need to be careful anymore," she said. "He already isn't." The snow kept falling, over Boston and over Long Island both, and in a small gray-shingled house above a cove, Lena Carter slept in a bed that was not hers, and a man sat at a table downstairs with his hands flat on the wood, and outside, somewhere past the pines, a car that did not belong to anyone's plan moved slowly along the county road with its headlights off, and passed the gate, and kept going, and turned around a mile later at a boat ramp where no one was looking, and came back. The car that came back down the county road with its headlights off did not make it to the gate. It did not, in fact, make it past the second cluster of pines a quarter mile before the gate, because Carl and a man named Bo were already in those pines, had been in them since 9, since before Lena had eaten her stew, in waxed canvas jackets the color of the bark, and they let the car ease past them on the gravel, the driver's side window half down, a man's gloved hand resting on the open sill, and then Carl stepped out from behind a trunk and put a flashlight on the driver's face. And the man behind the wheel did exactly what men in that situation almost always did, which was freeze for half a second too long. In that half second, Bo was at the passenger window. Carl did not shout. He never shouted. He just said, "Out, hands, slow," in the tired voice of a man who had said it too many times in his life. And the driver, a thin young man in a black coat with the kind of small, cruel face Lena would never see, took his hands off the wheel and opened the door and got out, because he was 26 years old and had been sent by a woman in a hotel suite in Boston to drive past a gate and radio back whether the gate looked guarded, and he had not been paid enough to die in a stand of pines on a snowy Tuesday night. They tied his hands. They tied his ankles. They put him in the back of a truck that was already parked 50 feet into the trees, and Carl got into the driver's seat of his little sedan and drove it, headlights still off, another half-mile up the county road to a gravel turnout, where he parked it, wiped the wheel, and walked back through the snow. Victor got the call at 10:42. He was in the kitchen still, with a cup of coffee he had not drunk, and his hands flat on the table and his sleeves rolled up, exactly where Lena had left him. And his phone buzzed once on the wood, face down, and he picked it up without turning it over first, just the way Lena had once watched him pick up a phone at 3 in the morning in Greenwich and step out onto the porch without a word to take a call that she had in the morning, pretended she had not heard. "Yes," Carl's voice. Quiet. "One scout. On his own. Boston plates. He knows her name. He knows Paul's name. He knows the word cove. That's the word he was told to confirm. Nothing past that. Where is he?" "Back of the barn. Talking." "Not yet. Would you like him to?" Victor was quiet a moment. He looked up at the low wooden beam across the kitchen ceiling. It had been painted once, a long time ago, and the paint was flaking in a rough pattern that looked, he had always thought, like a coastline. He had spent, in total, maybe 6 weeks of his life in this house. His mother had loved it. His father had not. His father had wanted a house with white columns and a pool. His mother had wanted this. His mother had won the argument exactly once in her entire marriage. Victor had been 12. "Not tonight," he said. "Put him somewhere warm. Water, blanket. Don't hurt him. In the morning I'll come out and talk to him myself." "Yes, boss." "Carl." "Yes, boss." "Thank you." Carl hung up. Victor set the phone down. He picked up the coffee cup. He drank the cup all the way down, cold, in 3 long swallows, and he set the cup in the sink. He turned off the kitchen light and went quietly to the foot of the stairs. He did not go up them. He had told her he would not, and he would not. He stood at the foot of the stairs in his stocking feet with his hand on the banister, and he listened to the old house settle around them in the cold. And he understood, for the first time in some long count of years, that a house could be a thing you were trying to deserve. He went back into the sitting room off the hall and he sat in the armchair where Paul had sat her earlier. The fire had burned low. He did not build it back up. He let it go to coals. He did not sleep. He sat in the dark with his hands folded and he watched the window and the snow coming down on the porch rail, and sometime around 3 he started, quietly, in his own head, to make a list. By the time the gray came up over the water, the list had 12 names on it. By the time Lena came down the stairs at 7:30, wrapped in a heavy cardigan somebody had left for her, and with her hair pulled back in a loose, low knot, the list had been turned into 2 phone calls. One to Peter Grasso in Manhattan, one to a man in Washington Victor had not spoken to in 3 years, and had promised himself for 3 years he would never speak to again. And the first of those 12 names had been, quietly, removed from the list. She found him in the kitchen. He was dressed, he had shaved, he had made coffee, not the decaf. He had pulled something real out of the back of Ilse's cupboard. The smell of it filled the room. He looked up when she came in and he did not smile exactly, but the thing under his face opened a little, the way a window opens a crack on a warm day. "Hi," he said. "Hi. Did you sleep?" "A lot, actually. The babies slept too. I think they like the sound of the water." "Good. Is there coffee for me?" "Decaf." Paul said no real. "Paul is a tyrant." "Yes." He poured her a cup. She sat at the small wooden table, the same table where she had eaten the stew, the same table where he had laid his hands flat and told her about the 3 dead men, and she wrapped her hands around the mug and she watched the steam come off it. "Victor." "Did something happen in the night?" He hesitated. "Yes," he said. "Tell me." He told her. He told her about the car, about the scout, about the barn, and the water, and the blanket, and the fact that the man was, at this moment, eating a plate of scrambled eggs that Carl's wife had brought out from the gatehouse. He told her about Peter Grasso. He told her, in broad strokes, not by name, not by city, not by anything that would sit in her head and stay there, about the call he had made to Washington. "What did you ask the man in Washington for?" she said, when he had finished. "His help." "What kind of help?" "The kind where 3 names on a list become people other people are afraid of being seen with. The kind where Carla Vos cannot buy a plane ticket next week without a federal agent looking at the receipt. The kind I have not asked for in a long time, and that I promised myself I would never ask for again, because it comes with its own costs." "What are the costs?" "I will owe him a thing I do not know yet, for however long he decides, maybe 10 years, maybe more, probably more." "Victor." "I know." "You promised yourself." "Yes." "You broke the promise." "Yes." "Why?" He looked at her across the table. "Because the alternative was another sidewalk," he said. "And next time there would not be a Dimitri across the block, or the bullet would not go wide, or you would be the one on the sidewalk, or—" His mouth closed, opened again. "Or it would not be a sidewalk. It would be a hospital. It would be a delivery room. It would be the wrong kind of day, and I would rather owe a man in Washington for the rest of my life than have the wrong kind of day." She looked down into the coffee. "You can't pay for our lives with pieces of yourself forever, Victor." "I know. You say I know. You have said I know 6 times in the last 12 hours. I do not think you do, actually, know." "Tell me then. Tell me what I am missing." She looked up. "You cannot pay for our lives with pieces of yourself forever, because at some point there is no more of you, and at that point you will keep paying, because that is who you are, and you will take things from us to pay with, because we will be the only thing of value you still have access to. That is the shape of this, Victor. That is what it looks like, 5 years out, 10 years out. If you keep solving every problem in your world by picking up a phone and owing another man, that is the thing I cannot live with. Not the men on the sidewalk, not Carla Vos. The phone calls, the trades, the small quiet ways you hand yourself away to people I will never meet in rooms I will never see. That is the thing. He was quiet a long time. "All right," he said. "Then help me." "What?" "Help me. Lena, I don't know how to do it a different way. I was raised by men who did it this way. I have done it this way for 20 years. If there is a different way, I am telling you, honestly, I do not see it from where I am standing. Help me see it." She looked at him. This was the sentence she understood, that she had been waiting for 5 years. The actual sentence. Not "I'll try" in a courthouse. Not "I know what I am" on the edge of a bed. Not a letter under a door at 4 in the morning. The actual sentence, "Help me, I do not see it, show me where to stand," said across a small wooden table in a kitchen that smelled of real coffee by a man who had killed a stranger in front of her on a sidewalk the day before. She did not know yet whether it was the sentence or whether it was a sentence that looked like the sentence. She had been fooled by sentences that looked like sentences before. But she said, "All right." He waited. First she said, "You are going to finish today. Carla Voss, the scout, Washington. Whatever comes next, you're going to finish it, because if you do not finish it, we will not have a next week to talk about anything. Understood?" "Yes, but after today, not tomorrow. Tomorrow there will be more. There always is. I mean in 3 months, 6 months. When the shape of the problem changes, when there is a new problem that is smaller than this one. You are going to stop solving it by picking up the phone. You are going to come home and you are going to say, 'I have a problem, Lena, and I do not see a way out of it that does not cost me another piece of myself.' And we are going to sit down at a table, the two of us, and we are going to talk about it, and we are going to find a different way. Even if the different way is slower. Even if the different way is harder. Even if the different way means you lose money. Even if the different way means you lose face. Even if the different way means a man you do not like walks away with something that was yours. We are going to do it that way. Not your way. Ours. Lena, I'm not finished. All right. Second, you are going to be out of the work. All of it. Not reduced. Out. You give the contracts to someone. You give the shipping to someone. You give the buildings to someone. You take the money you have and you put it in the kind of place boring men put money, and you do nothing with it except live. You will hate this. You will be bored for a year. You will look around at your life and think you have become small. I'm telling you now that you're going to feel that way, and I am telling you now that you are going to do it anyway. Because the only way our children grow up without picking up a phone the way their father picks up a phone is if their father at some point puts the phone down and never picks it up again. Yes. Third, you are going to see someone. He looked at her. Lena, a person, a doctor, not Paul, a different kind of doctor. You are going to sit in a chair across from a person once a week and you are going to talk to them about your father, about the piano, about the men you have killed, about me, about the babies, about whatever they ask you to talk about. I do not care who you see. I do not care how it works. I do not care how much it costs. You're going to do it because you cannot raise children if you are still, at 38, the 11-year-old boy your father made you. And I will not raise children with a man who is still that boy. You will go. Every week. For however long it takes. All right. Victor? Yes. You're saying yes very fast. I know. Do not say yes if you're going to be angry about it in a month. I'm going to be angry about it in a month. I'm telling you now. In a month, I'm going to be angry. In 6 months, I'm going to be more angry. I'm going to come home at some point and not speak to you for a whole evening because I have been to see this person and they said something I did not want to hear. I know this about myself. I'm telling you so you know it too. But I'm going to go, Lena. I'm going to go because you are right and because I would rather be angry at you for a year than lose you for the rest of my life. Chitbo. Bam iskishen. Good. Lena. Is that the list? That's the list. What about me? What about you? What do I get? She looked at him. You get us, she said. He looked down at his hands. His knuckle had come unscabbed overnight, a little. There was a thin line of dried blood across the Band-Aid Nadia had put on him 2 days ago. He did not answer her. He only nodded once without looking up, and she could see the muscle in his jaw moving. Eat something, she said after a moment. I ate. No, you didn't. Ilsa told me. Don't lie to me about eggs, Victor. That's stupid. Fine. He got up. He made himself a piece of toast. He ate it standing at the counter like a man who had not, in fact, eaten toast in a long time, and who was doing it clumsily. She watched him. And she thought about the man in the gray knit cap with the nylon loop. And she thought about the first shot going wide. And she thought about the way his hand had been shaking in the sedan. She thought about how all the stories she had ever heard about men like Victor were stories about men who did not shake. And she thought that maybe, there was some small margin of hope in a man whose hand shook. 2 days later, Peter Grasso called and said the thing about the DA's office had gone the way Victor had said it would go, which was to say, nowhere. No press, no charges, a name in a file on a desk. 3 days later, Dmitri picked up the bearded man's driver on a traffic stop in Queens, handed him to a detective at the 109th who owed someone in Washington a favor, and by Friday morning, the driver had given up a phone number in Boston. And by Friday night, the man in Washington had a team sitting on the hotel suite on the waterfront. And by Sunday morning, Carla Voss had walked out of that hotel into a federal arrest for wire fraud and tax evasion and a number of other things that had been in Peter Grasso's safe for 11 years. And she had gone quietly because Carla Voss, whatever else she was, had always understood arithmetic. Esteban Qureshi left the country on a small plane 2 hours before the arrest. He did not come back. The Mazzetti brothers took a meeting a week after Carla Voss's arrest with a man who represented Victor and did not look like he represented Victor. And they left the meeting with a number of small concessions written on a piece of paper that was burned in front of them in a glass ashtray. And they did not speak Victor's name again after that, except in private, in tones that were not the tones they had once used. Anton Reyes died in March of a stroke in a chair in his own living room at 74. Victor did not go to the funeral. Victor sent flowers and a note, and the note was read by Reyes's son, and the son folded it and put it in his pocket and understood what it meant. And the thing that had been between those two families for a generation closed that afternoon in a funeral home in Bay Ridge. In the small, clean way a door closes. The fifth name, the possible fifth, the one Victor had been unable to identify, turned out, in the end, to be a man named Fisher who had been managing a warehouse for Victor in Newark and who had been, for a year, quietly moving small amounts of product off the books for Carla Voss. When Carla Voss went down, Fisher had come to Victor's office on a Tuesday morning, unprompted. With a ledger and his resignation and an envelope of cash he said he had been keeping to give back when he had the nerve. Victor had sat with him for an hour. Victor had not done to him what, a year before, Victor would have done to him. Victor had taken the ledger, taken the envelope, taken the resignation, and had told him to get on a bus. Fisher had gotten on a bus. Lena, when she heard the story, had sat at the kitchen table in the apartment on East 63rd for a long time without saying anything. And then she had stood up and walked over to where Victor was standing by the window, and she had put her hand flat on his chest over his heart. And she had left it there a minute, and then she had walked away without saying anything. And Victor had understood that he had been kissed. The twins came at the end of March. Early, but not alarmingly early. 36 weeks and 2 days. A girl first, the smaller one, the one Lena had been right about without evidence. A dark-haired, furious 7-pound baby who came into the world already screaming, as if she had some strong opinion about the whole business and intended to make sure everyone present understood it. And then, 9 minutes later, a boy, quieter, pinker, with his father's hands already, long-fingered. Dr. Lou was there. Paul was there. Victor was there. He stood at the head of the bed. He did not faint, although he came very close at the point where, for about 90 seconds, everything seemed to be going wrong with the boy's breathing, and Dr. Lou moved with a speed that did not allow for questions. And Victor's hand on Lena's was so tight it left a bruise she would find 2 days later. But the boy breathed. He breathed, and then he wailed, and Dr. Lou put him on Lena's chest next to his sister. And Lena looked down at the two small dark-haired heads under her chin, and she said, very quietly, the way she had been saying it for 36 weeks, "Okay, okay, we're okay, we're okay." Victor cried. He cried the way he had cried once before, the morning after the night his hand had been on her throat, sitting on the edge of the bed fully dressed. Silently, without moving, tears sliding into the collar of his shirt, and him not seeming to know they were there. Lena watched him over the small head of their daughter, and she reached up without saying anything, and she put her hand on his face. And he turned his face into her palm and closed his eyes and stayed there like that for a long moment. And she thought, this is who he is. This is who he was all along, underneath. This is the version of him I have been waiting for and he has been waiting for, and we may not have gotten to in time, but we got to. We got here. We are here. They named the girl Ada. They named the boy Samuel. She went back to work 6 weeks later. Not full-time. Nobody who has just had twins goes back to work full-time, and anyone who says they did is either lying or very rich. But she picked up the memoir about the dairy farmer again, and she finished it, and the memoir, when it came out a year later, was dedicated to my editor, who never once let me get away with a beautiful sentence that was not also a true one. And Lena read that dedication sitting on the floor of the living room with Ada asleep against her shoulder, and she cried, but only a little, because by then she had been using up her tears on other things and had grown careful with them. Victor got out of the work. It took longer than she had wanted. It took 18 months, not 6. There were contracts. There were men who had to be handed other men. There were long, slow conversations in unlit restaurants that Lena was never in the room for, but that he told her about after, at their kitchen table, in the voice of a man reporting to a partner. He sold 2 buildings. He gave one away. He took the money and he put it with a boring man in a boring firm in Midtown who would, for the next 40 years, make them a return that was smaller than what Victor could have made himself, and that would, for that reason, keep them alive. He went to see the doctor. He hated it. He told Lena 4 weeks in that he hated it. He told her 4 months in that he still hated it, but that he had stopped trying to make the doctor like him, which the doctor had noted out loud, and which had, in Victor's telling, been the worst moment of the entire process. He told her, a year in, that the doctor had asked him to describe his mother, and that he had not been able to do it, and that he had sat in the chair for 12 minutes in silence, and that the doctor had not filled the silence, and that at minute 13 he had said a sentence about his mother that he had not known was in him, and that after the session he had gone to a diner on Lexington and eaten a piece of coconut cream pie, alone, at the counter, and cried into it a little, and the woman behind the counter had not said anything, and he had left her a $40 tip. He did not go back to the phone. That was the thing. Over the first year, and the second year, and the third, there were problems. There were always problems. A man who had taken over one of the contracts started cutting corners. A dispute came up on a warehouse Victor had not quite successfully divested from. A reporter at a small magazine started asking questions that could, if they had been answered, have been very bad. Victor came home, every time, and he sat at the kitchen table, and he put his hands flat on the wood, and he said, "Lena, I have a problem, and I do not see a way out of it that does not cost me another piece of myself." And Lena would sit across from him, and she would pour him coffee, and they would talk about it. Sometimes the different way was slower. Sometimes it was harder. Sometimes the man he did not like did walk away with something that was his, and Victor would be short-tempered for a week and sleep badly and snap at Samuel once for knocking over a glass of water, and then sit on the floor of the kids' room for an hour at midnight, apologizing to a sleeping 4-year-old. But he did not pick up the phone, and slowly, not all at once, not cleanly, not in a way that made for a good story later, the shape of the world around them changed. The men in the black cars stopped coming down the street. The small black phone in Lena's drawer stopped being charged and then was unplugged, and then, one afternoon when Ada was 3, got dropped into the drawer of a desk at a secondhand store on the Upper East Side during a donation, where, presumably, it is still sitting, dead and anonymous, in a box somewhere. Nadia and Luca moved out of the second-floor studio on East 63rd when the twins were 2, because Lena had come down one morning and told them, standing in her bathrobe in the lobby with a coffee in her hand, "I want you to go live somewhere you chose, in an apartment that wasn't assigned to you. I want you to go be a family in a place that is yours. I want that for you more than I want you here. Please go." And Nadia had looked at her a long moment, and then she had said, "All right, Lena," and they had gone, and Lena missed them. Missed Nadia particularly, the careful sideways friendship they had built. But she understood later that she had given something away that day that she had needed to give away. And that was a different kind of giving than the kind Victor had spent his life doing. They moved eventually out of the city. Not to Greenwich. Greenwich had too many ghosts even after Victor sold the house. Someone else lived in it now, someone with 3 children and a yellow Labrador, and Lena had driven past it once, a year after the sale, and had not stopped the car, and had not cried, but had said out loud to herself, "Good, good. You live there now, it's yours," and had kept driving. They moved to a small town on the Hudson, an hour north. An old farmhouse, a dog, an anxious, mostly blind rescue who had attached himself to Samuel with the desperate fidelity of a dog who had understood finally that he had found his person. A vegetable garden Lena never quite got the hang of. A piano in the living room, which Victor did not play for the first 6 months they lived there. And then, one evening in late fall, with the kids in bed, sat down at and played a single slow, hesitant piece of something Lena did not recognize. And she had come into the doorway and leaned against the frame and not said anything. And Victor had not turned around. And when he was finished, he had sat on the bench a moment with his hands on the closed lid. And then he had gotten up and come to her and put his forehead against hers and said nothing. And they had stood like that a long time. There were hard days still. There were the days when he came home tight-shouldered from the city, from a meeting about something legal and small and boring, and she could see in the way he moved that he had come close to making a phone call and had not made it. And she would get him a glass of water and sit with him on the back porch while he cooled down. And she would not ask, and he would not say. And eventually, after an hour, he would exhale and his shoulders would drop, and he would say something ordinary about Samuel's baseball practice, and they would go in. There were the days when she looked at him across the breakfast table, and she thought about the young man sitting down against the side of the green Volvo with a surprised look on his face, and she thought, "You did that. You did that in front of me. You did that for me," and she did not know, for a whole morning, what to do with the feeling that came up with that thought. A feeling that had gratitude and horror tangled in it, and could not be taken apart. On those days she would go for a long walk by the river and come back, and she would not exactly forgive him. She had stopped thinking of it in those terms, somewhere along the way, but she would resume the work of loving him, which was a different and more grown-up thing. There were the days when Ada, who was shaping up at 6 to be a child with a temper and an opinion and very little tolerance for being told what to do, would slam a door hard enough to make the windows rattle, and Victor's face, for a split second, would go somewhere it did not normally go, and Lena would watch him see himself going there, and she would watch him pull himself back, and she would watch him go, slowly, calmly, and sit down outside Ada's door and talk to her through the wood about nothing in particular for 10 minutes until Ada opened the door, and she would think, "He is doing the work. He is doing the work in front of them. They will not grow up in a house of slammed doors that are never apologized for." That was the whole point. That was always the whole point. On the twins' 8th birthday, Mira came up for the weekend. She brought Dev, who she was now married to, and their 2 boys. And there was a barbecue in the backyard, and Victor grilled. He had become, in his 40s, a surprisingly patient and irritating griller, the kind of man who insisted on measuring the temperature of the coals. And there was a long trestle table set up on the grass with a blue checkered cloth on it, and there were too many children running in and out of the house with juice-stained mouths. And at one point, Mira came and stood next to Lena by the edge of the lawn, where Lena was pretending to watch the kids, but was really just looking out at the river. And Mira said quietly, "You okay, Carter?" And Lena said, I'm okay. And Mira said, "You look okay." And Lena said, "I am." Mira bumped her shoulder. They watched Samuel, who had gotten his father's patience and none of his temper, carefully explaining something to Mira's younger boy about a fence post. They watched Ada, who was going to be, Lena already understood, the kind of woman Lena herself had never quite managed to be, running flat out across the yard with a super soaker and a plan. "He's good with them," Mira said. "He is. It's still weird to me. It's still weird to me." Mira laughed. "Lena, do you ever—" "Never mind. Forget it." "No." "What?" "Do you ever think about her? Carla, whoever, the scout, the bearded guy, any of them. Do you ever—" "Yes." "Yeah?" "Yes, Mira." "Does it—" "It doesn't go away. It's not supposed to. If it went away, I'd be a different kind of person than I want to be. I think about them. I think about the bearded one. I think about how he was somebody's son. I think about how that somebody doesn't have him anymore. I don't apologize to myself for it anymore. I used to. I used to try to work out whether I had done something wrong, whether I should have run faster, whether I should have, I don't know, gone to the police 6 years ago, done it all differently, whether Victor should have. I stopped doing that. I think about them. I hold them. I keep them with me. but I don't drag them around. Does that make sense? Yeah. I think the thing I figured out eventually is that I was never going to be the kind of woman who got out of this without any dirt on her. I was only going to be the kind of woman who got out. The dirt was already on me the night I married him. I didn't know it yet. I had to figure out what to do with the dirt after, not how to pretend I didn't have any. That's bleak, Carter. It's not. It's the opposite of bleak. The bleak version is the one where I pretend I'm clean and I punish him forever for not being. That version kills all four of us. This version, we're standing in the yard. Mira looked at her. I love you, she said. I love you. Are you going to cry? No. I'm going to cry. Don't cry. Ada will see you and she'll ask why. Ada asks why about everything. Ada is going to run a country someday and be very hard on her staff. Ada is going to run us all over. Yes. They watched the kids. Ada sprayed Samuel in the face. Samuel, who was made of more forgiving stuff, laughed and took the super soaker away from her and filled it back up for her at the hose and handed it back. Victor, at the grill, called Dev over to look at something. The dog, who was now almost entirely blind, stood in the middle of the yard and waited patiently for Samuel to come back and tell him where to go. Lena put her hand briefly on her own stomach. There was nothing there and hadn't been for 8 years. But the gesture stayed in her. It was the gesture of a woman who had once stood at a window on West 47th Street in the middle of the night and told her unborn children, "Okay, we're okay," when she had no reason in the world to believe it. She had been lying that night. She had known she was lying. She had told them anyway, because sometimes the only thing you can give a person is a sentence that isn't true yet, and you can live long enough to make it true later if you are lucky and stubborn, and you love someone enough to keep walking toward the sentence every day for years. She had been lucky. She had been stubborn. She had loved people enough. And the sentence, the one she had whispered to 2 small lives in a cold apartment in Manhattan on a November night with a black sedan idling on the corner, had slowly, over 8 years, become true. Mira leaned her head against Lena's shoulder. Carter. The burgers are going to burn. Yeah. Victor does not know how long a burger takes. He thinks he does. He really doesn't. I know. They did not move. They stood together at the edge of the lawn, and Ada screamed with laughter somewhere behind them, and Samuel told the blind dog where the porch was, and Victor, at the grill, finally, at last, moved the burgers off the heat. The river went past the end of the yard, slow and brown in the late afternoon sun, the way rivers do, carrying whatever it was carrying on toward the sea. Lena watched it go. She thought not for the first time that running had saved her life, and staying had saved her life, and that they were not, after all, opposite things. They were both, in the end, ways of choosing. The woman who had left Greenwich in a rented Honda at 2 a.m, and the woman who was standing in a yard on the Hudson watching her husband overcook a burger were the same woman, and she had chosen both times, and she had been right both times. And she did not owe anyone. Not Victor, not Mira, not Ada, not Samuel, not the ghost of the young man against the green Volvo, not the small, hard version of herself that had sat on a bathroom floor in Trenton and counted $11,000 in cash. Any explanation for either choice beyond the fact that she had made them, and she had survived them, and here she was. Ada came flying across the yard with her hair in her face. Mom. Mom, Dad said I have to ask you if I can have another juice box because I already had 2, and I told him I only had 1, but he said I had 2, and so I'm asking you, and the answer should be yes. Lena looked down at her daughter. Ada was 8 years old, and she had her father's gray eyes, and she had Lena's chin, and she had a bruise on her knee from falling off the porch 2 days ago, and she had a mouth on her that was going to get her into a great deal of trouble someday. And she was, at this moment, looking up at her mother with the entire confident expectation of a child who had never, in her life, had to wonder whether she was safe. "One more juice box," Lena said, "and then water. And you did have 2. Your father is right. Dad is never right. Dad is sometimes right." Fine. Ada ran off. Lena watched her go. She watched her husband at the grill laugh at something Dev had said. She watched her son sit down in the grass with the dog's head in his lap. She thought, good. She thought, okay, we're okay. And this time, finally, after all of it, it was simply and entirely true.